The following program contains material of an enlightening nature. Open-mindedness is advised.
Today, I want you to open your mind.
I've almost come to the conclusion that the story is so damning that the mass of people can't deal with it.
We are in process of developing a whole series of techniques to get people actually to love their servitude.
We face a hostile ideology, global in scope, atheistic in character, ruthless in purpose, and insidious in method.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
To change the minds and the attitudes and the beliefs of the people of the world, and especially the United States, to bring about one world socialist totalitarian government.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
As you connect the dots between different people, organizations, places, religions, history, suddenly the picture starts to form. You don't connect the dots. It's just a mass of what's all this about.
The kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure.
Someone born in the United States is not more special than someone born in Mexico. Someone who is white is not more special than someone who is black. They're just vehicles for the consciousness to experience.
Brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people.
War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength.
Humans as a species are prone to amnesia. Those who do not remember the past are doomed to repeat it. It is thus imperative that these all-important matters be thoroughly explored and not left up to blind faith.
It's about time some of you got acquainted with the real hard truth.
What you are now experiencing is the vibration of air particles being transformed into electrical signals by your senses and DNA, then sent to the brain where they are decoded into sounds. I'm your host, Ryan Gable, and this is The Secret Teachings. Our website, www.thesecretteachings.info. If you go to the website, you will find all of our past episodes to download or stream for free, and you will also find a guest tab with all of our past guests. You can also, under the guest tab, find a link to our guests' websites as well as a download link for that particular show. And on the program today, we welcome Gary Leggiere, a.k.a. Gary the Mad Martian, who will be joining us here in just a few minutes. And before we get Gary on, I have Ira Robinson, host of Open Eyes Radio, with me on the line. Ira, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me on. I love Gary. I love talking to him. I love listening to him. He's just a fantastic person, so I'm really glad to be here.
It's good stuff. You know that I'm not a big proponent or opponent of a lot of this information, although I lean more to the side of not believing the Never a Straight Answer acronym. But when I look at the information provided by independent researchers such as Gary, it makes a little bit more sense to me than a lot of the other crap that we see. And I know that, and we'll probably hear about it tonight here in a little bit, that Gary does not like Richard Hoagland that much. And maybe we'll find out why, because there's a lot of people in the alternative community, Ira, who really, really like Richard Hoagland, as he is this prominent face on shows like Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah, and I would love it. Hopefully we can get maybe the story like from the beginning, because I know that a lot of people, when they come into information with Gary, he sort of hits you with the things from this point forward, basically. It's good once in a while to hit on the past and figure out why did you begin down this pathway, maybe with Hoagland and all that kind of stuff. Because, again, a lot of people do like him. Let's start from the beginning and see what happens, you know?
That's right. Let me go ahead and get his number in, ready to give him a call here. And that's, I think, what we'll start with is I want to ask him exactly what led to this. Because if you just kind of came into this information without knowing who Gary is, maybe you've heard of Richard Hoagland, you might think that Gary's one of these guys who's just trying to make a name for himself and do that on the backs of others. But I think his story is a little bit different. So let's go ahead and get Gary on the line with us if hopefully this Skype works here.
Yeah, one thing that I love about Gary while you're dialing him up here is just he speaks from his passion. And I love listening to anybody that speaks from their passion, whatever the topic may be. I get a big kick out of it.
Me too, brother. And it looks like the Skype is not going to allow me to do that. So what we will have to do is try a different way. At least that's the number that he gave me. Let me try it one more time. This thing might mute you, Ira, so give me 1 second here, okay? Let me see if this works. Plug that number in, and we are dialing. It looks like Ira got cut off, but we'll add him back. And see what the results are.
Hello?
Gary, welcome to the Secret Teachings. This is Ryan Gable. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, Ryan, I was just trying to message you, man. I didn't know what the game plan was. I kind of run into a snag. I'm going to need about a half hour. But we're recording, right?
Yeah, we are live right now, and I'm also joined by Ira Robinson.
We're live.
Yeah.
We're live right now?
Yeah, I didn't get your message. I'm sorry about that.
Ooh. Damn it. Yeah, I'm kind of in, I need like a half hour.
Okay, well,
possible?
Yeah, well, what we'll do is we'll take a break, and we'll come back with a few other things, and then we'll give you another call here in about 30 minutes.
All right, I apologize, everyone, if everyone hears me. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, I'll talk to you soon, Gary. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, Ira, are you still with me?
I am, yeah.
Alrighty, so what we can do here is we'll take a break in just a moment, and then we'll come back with Gary in just a little bit. Did you have anything else on your mind, though, before we take a break, since we have a little bit of time here?
Not particularly. I don't know. I actually did an interview with somebody today that I thought was really interesting, and I would love to get maybe Gary's take on some of the things that he was saying. He was talking about some of the underground military bases and some of the things that NASA is doing down in South America. So kind of an interesting take on things. So
yeah, I've actually, with the three shows we did, on the 3-part series we did a couple of weeks ago on NASA, UFOs, those weird cylindrical rod-shaped objects, the hollow moon, Venus, and all those other topics. I've started to write a third book, actually. It's a sequel to my book, The Grand Illusion, and in the third part of that book, primarily, I'm going to be focusing on these topics. So I finally pushed myself to write a book on the subject, strictly, basically, of this UFO phenomenon. So I'm looking forward to getting that out there. I'm sure people are looking forward to reading that. Recently, we've got a lot of really great feedback from listeners on the Secret Teachings about those shows in particular. Why do you think it is, Ira, that out of all of the topics and subjects that you can discuss, why is it that the subject of aliens just gets the biggest numbers? What is that?
You know, I think most of it is because when you're looking at the topic of aliens and UFOs, it really fits into like the savior mentality. You know, the idea that we really need somebody to come in and save us. So the idea of aliens and that sort of thing, you kind of automatically either go into one of two camps. Either they're coming to kill us or they're coming to save us. So,
isn't that true? Yeah.
As opposed to what's probably the reality, which is that they're probably just watching us and trying to learn what the heck are we doing with our planet and ourselves. The other reason, I think, is because when you're talking about the more esoteric subjects that you tend to talk about, which I really love myself and I really enjoy listening to.
Thank you.
That's a respective or a perspective that you have to look inwards as opposed to outside, and it's much easier to look outside of yourself than it is to look inside of yourself.
You know,
I think that's a lot to do with it.
There's a lot of different topics that come to mind when you mention that. First of all, this idea that God is omnipresent, always there, always watching, will judge you in the final days during the apocalypse, which is a word that just means the great unveiling. And I was reading a book the other day, and the author was talking about these concepts and the idea that God judges you when you die for all the things that you've done in your life, but really the only person that knows what you've done and what your intentions were are you. And that relates back to the idea that you are God. God is inside of you, And the priests, if you will, have you looking elsewhere, have you looking to a third party, have you looking to an intermediary in order to communicate with something that is inside you. You, again, have delegated your authority to another party. You have you've given up all responsibility, and that seems to be a very common thread, not just in Western civilization, but across the globe. Giving up personal responsibility, giving up your own personal authority to make your own decisions, to better yourself in your life, giving that decision-making power to somebody else and allowing them to dictate how and what you do in your life, and that is one of the biggest scams that's ever been perpetuated on human civilization as a whole.
Yeah, it's really, when you come down to it, a lot of the priest class today, they actually go against what their own person who started things off, at least allegedly, had to say. The kingdom of God is within you. It's within you yourself, not outside of yourself, not through some priest or some pastor or, through even educating yourself through the scriptures. It is within you, within all men at this moment in time. No second nature to it. No other things need to be said. It's just the kingdom of God is within you.
That's right.
That was the good news. That was the gospel. The gospel translates to good news. That was it, and that was all. And all the other extraneous stuff that gets added to it just causes more and more harm and more division and more possibilities for the priests to continue getting fatter upon the backs of their flocks, just like they've always done.
Now, see, isn't that an interesting point that you bring up about the gospel? What it actually means, like the word apocalypse. People think apocalypse, they think end of the world. It's a destruction, and in some ways we've created this definition for the word that's even applied to the dictionary. But the original term of what apocalypse means is a great unveiling or a great unveiling of truth. God,
yes, great revelation,
right.
Apocalypsos in the Greek. Yep.
In Greece, God was represented as the Word. The Word of God was not a linguistical word. It was a symbolic, metaphorical word of God. It wasn't the actual, literal, scriptural word of God as if God said this and it was transcribed in a courtroom by a stenographer. That's not what it was. It was a kind of coded message, if you will. It is a way to take information and to hide it away from those who will abuse it and to preserve it for future generations and people that are what you might call illuminated, but people that have the ability to look past the veils, to look through the different layers, will be able to extract that information in generations to come. And that's why a lot of the times we see these, what we call secret societies that stemmed out of ancient mystery schools and where a lot of ancient religions came from. And people tend to look at them and say, well, they're hiding secrets. It must be evil, like this viewpoint that we have of Freemasonry. But maybe they're hiding secrets because if they were to reveal the secrets, perhaps they would be persecuted, by the very institutions that run the planet, such as, let's say, the religious Catholic Church, the Vatican, who anybody that brings any kind of information to the forefront, whether it's a fact or whether it's just an idea, is ruthlessly just demonized to no extent, whether it's the Gnostic Gospels or it's even, understanding the origins of where Jesus came from as a Nazarene out of this Essene sect in Jerusalem. People are not just scoffed at, they are demonized and condemned to hell for bringing forth a different version of events than what has been portrayed and what they have been programmed to believe since the first time they went to church or they went to school. It is really a monumental, and you have to stand back in astonishment of it, form of brainwashing, I think.
It is, absolutely. And you bring up a good point when it comes to words. There's a phrase, for instance, no rest for the wicked. When people hear that phrase, the immediate thought is that it means those who work hard. You don't get any rest because you're just so hardworking and industrious and
constantly going, right.
But the actual scriptures, because it came actually from the Old Testament, Isaiah 15:40, if I remember correctly. No rest for the wicked is not the phrase that's used. It actually is no peace for the wicked man.
So that's
a vastly different.
That's different. Yeah, that's way different.
It's hugely different. Just like the idea of blood is thicker than water. You hear that phrase and you think, because of that phrase, you have to stick around with family no matter what, But the actual phrase that is again used in the Bible, because that is a scriptural term, was the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. It means the opposite of sticking with family.
So breaking away from family.
Exactly. And finding your own bonds with your blood brothers.
So again,
you have shed blood with, in fact, is what it was referring to.
Ah, I see. So if you take that and apply it to the concept of extraterrestrial life, if we look at what we have in terms of a scientific culture, they're always telling us to look out there, Ira, to look out there, not in our solar system. They're telling us to look out there in the galaxy, look at, the closest star 4 light years away. We'll never get there. Look at, galaxies that are billions of light years away. That's where life could exist. They always give you the hope that it could exist. It might exist. But they don't look at the evidence that exists right here in our own solar system, as I'm sure something that we'll talk about with Gary tonight, and something
or even
that
within ourselves.
Exactly, because it's always about out there and not what's right here. And that seems to be a universal concept, I think, isn't it? In so many different ways.
It really does seem that way to me, yeah. And it's unfortunate because I think that, people, when they reflect upon themselves, that's where the dark night of the soul comes in. And I think that actually might be part of the problem. People are scared of the dark night of the soul. They really are. You've heard that phrase before.
Why do you think they're so scared of it?
Because it's a horrible experience. I've been through it a couple of times in my life, and it really is a horrible experience to go through. You're filled with this unease, and everything that you've known is breaking down, and you're confused, and life is literally, you're going through this hellish moment in time. But the fact is that when you get through the dark night of the soul, you are transformed into something that is a new creation and a new being, and you have a completely new and better outlook on life. So it's sort of that thing of people are afraid of death, not necessarily because of death itself, but because they're afraid of the pain that might be caused upon the infliction of death.
You know what? That is something I've spoke about before. Remember the Pythagorean why? Have I ever explained that to you?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. People look at the left earthly lit path, and they look at the dark spiritual path, and they think, I'm going to take the light path. I can see, it makes more sense, it's physical, it's tangible, I can touch it, and they stray away from that darker path. But in reality, if you take that darker path, it's not dark in the sense that these demons are going to run out and start gnawing your legs off. It's dark in the sense that it is unknown, unexperienced reality. If you experience that, learn from that, progress from that, you come out on the other side as a different kind of a person. The entire point, I think, of the progression of life. And people are scared to go through that, and they've been deceived by that left path, by that false light, by that illumination, by that lighted torch, by the trickster that we've talked about so many times, and they are deceived with this grand illusion of physical matter and reality. In fact, in a lot of esoteric text, one in particular, the Sacred History, written by an acquaintance author of mine, Mark Booth, from the UK, he writes that Lucifer, which is basically the trickster, endows matter with a type of glamour and sparkle, and it makes people want those material physical items. And if you relate that to institutionalized religion, always building these churches that are the size of an entire city block, these monster mega churches, like 4 or 5 stories tall. They're the size of like a Walmart parking lot and the Walmart combined. And you look at all this material possession and wealth, gold and jewels and all of this just ridiculousness of the Vatican and all of these other establishments and the Royal Crown, all these people that profess peace and they profess equality and they profess that they want to help the poor souls living on the street, and yet they sit there with more money on their head than most people in the world have combined in all the bank accounts for the average person, and yet they talk about peace and they talk about equality and they talk about helping the common man. It's all a bunch of bullshit, and it's just a big social conditioning system to transfer wealth from the poor, profane, to the wealthy, self-proclaimed elitists.
You've got it. And I'd like to make 2 points in regards to what you were just saying. That was amazing. I love it. 2 points with that. The first one is, how much do you think, when it speaks in Revelations, going with the apocalypsos here, when you see in Revelations that it speaks about the great deception that comes upon men, how much of that is actually this deception that you're speaking about, where people are so physical as opposed to spiritual?
Yeah, actually, I've always thought about that in the sense that when I was a kid, I grew up in a Christian Baptist school, and you'd always hear this underlying theme when conversations about God or life or heaven or hell, life and death would come up, and it would be especially Revelations in the Apocalypse, you'd hear, well, the devil's not going to come with a pitchfork and horns. He's going to come, as a savior of mankind. And if you relate that to our current socio-religious political structure that we have in place, what are these people doing? They are coming in the name of God as a savior to mankind. They're going to protect you from the terrorists. They're going to protect you from the devil. They're going to protect you from the enemy that they keep constantly creating or provoking to attack. They are the false prophets, Ira.
Absolutely.
That's the point.
They are what would be considered to be Antichrist. If you read in 1 John, it talks about the Antichrists, not Christ, but Christ's. It actually speaks in the plural. It talks about the people who are against Christ. And that is exactly what we see in a lot of churches now. Not all. No, not all. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not generalizing. But in a lot of churches that are out there, you do see exactly that they are as anti-Christ as you can get. They focus on things like the Pauline scriptures as opposed to the words of Christ. The big, bold words in red that you see all over the New Testament, that's Christ's words. That's the ones that are the most important out of the whole Bible. Okay, if you're going to be a Christian and rely upon what your Savior is telling you, maybe you should pay attention to what your Savior is telling you. Don't worry about what Paul wrote about. Worry about what Christ wrote, because Paul and Christ are completely separate from each other, and they are actually diametrically opposed against each other if you really get down and learn what the Scriptures are telling you.
Yeah, Paul brought about a whole other kind of religious teaching. He misinterpreted the original texts and teachings of Jesus.
Yes, exactly. And if you look at the way that a lot of churches function today, they function on this very they're all about the eschatology, the end of the world stuff. What's going to come at the end? Don't worry about what comes at the end. Worry about what your soul is doing right now. That's what Christ was saying to be concerned about. Worry about this moment. Let everything else take its place. Take place wherever it's going to take. Now, the second point that I'd like to make, what I was going to refer to earlier, is that I give the analogy as far as the dark night of the soul is concerned as the birthing process. When you go through the process of birth, it's a horrible experience. You're in pain, you're being crushed, there's all this stuff going on, and you're hearing all the screams of your mother, and on and on and on. It's a horrific experience.
And then they smack you on the ass.
And then they smack you on the ass as you get pulled into this new world. But, you get into this new world, and now you have this whole new thing of light and love and embracing and on and on and on that you're going to be able to explore. It's a whole new life, a whole new creation that you're entering into. And that's what the end of the dark night of the soul is all about. While you're going through the dark night of the soul, it's a horrible experience. But once it's over, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, you've come through with so much experience, so much learning, so much knowledge. You've progressed, which I think is the point of life, to live, to learn, to experience.
It's a creative process.
And how do you, as coming from a divine source, if you will, how can you, this is a question that you don't necessarily have to answer, but this is a question that I had in my head as a child. How can you profess to understand what is good, what is innately positive in the world, if you haven't experienced what is evil and what is inherently negative in the world? You have to have both experiences. That Teo idea of the yin and the yang. You have to have a balancing of the two. One cannot be good without an association to compare it with, without that association to evil or bad or negativity. And that's why I always used to say, how can we see God as good if we don't have the devil? It's like they have to be business partners. They have to be, one's the good cop, one's the bad cop.
See, that's where I think a lot of the unified sort of thinking does things incorrectly. I've in the different explorations of different philosophies that I've run across over the years, one of them that is a very popular one in the New Age type of thinking is that we're supposed to be this unified type of consciousness, that the duality doesn't exist, that it's all supposed to be a oneness type of thing. But we actually have to have that duality, exactly what you were saying. You have to have something to to contrast and compare with. Without it, you won't understand anything that you're looking at. You
That's
can't.
right.
You can't see your desk if there's no light on the desk. You can't. You can't see the smile of your child if you've never been able to see your child. Okay, but in order to see your child, you have to come out of the darkness and into the light. Right now, we are really living in a dark age as far as our information is concerned. In the great unwashed masses, we are in the dark age as far as information, as far as technology is concerned, compared to all the other entities that are out there. We are also, in fact, still in the dark ages spiritually as well. But that dark ages, again, you can look at all of this as being a dark night of the soul. All of us are going through this experience. Some of us may just be a couple of steps ahead or a couple of steps behind, but we're all basically in the same level. We're all still seeking that center being, that source, that God that is there, which, I mean, despite what other people may try to claim about you and I, because we talk about topics that kind of, I guess, get people's goats, so to speak. But despite what anybody else out there might think, we don't disagree or disbelieve in God or anything like that. In fact, for me, I feel I understand and am closer to Christ now than I ever was when I was a professing Christian, because I've actually
understand it now.
Yes, I understand it now. I've gone from that point of believing into knowing what he meant by what he said. Why? Because I've had now the experiential things to compare it with.
I agree with you, and as a matter of fact, I don't use any type of terminology to compare myself and give myself any type of definitive title, but I completely agree with you. I'm in the same boat with you. It makes more sense now. And we are basically what we really believed before with, on blind faith. We are that now, just in a sense without the label. We have the same, belief, but a different understanding of it. And that really is one of the points that we've been trying to talk about here in this first half hour, just learning and progress through experience in life. And that's what's so fascinating about this experience that we do call life. I'm almost glad that Gary had a half-hour delay here so that we could have this conversation. It kind of came out of nowhere. I really enjoyed it, but we're going to go ahead and have to take a short break. We'll play a couple of promos. I actually have your promo, Ira, The New Priests, that I'm going to play here.
I love that one.
It's a good one, and I think it relates to a little bit of what we're talking about here. So go ahead and hang on tight. This is The Secret Teachings. I'm Ryan Gable. I got Ira Robinson with me, and when we come back, we will be speaking with Gary Leggiere. And just so I don't have to take the time again when we come back on, let me go ahead and read you Gary's bio right now, Ira. The bio for Gary Leggiere, a.k.a. Gary the Mad Martian. He is an independent Mars researcher, anomaly hunter, and image analyst of Mars imagery since 1998. Gary is a whistleblower and has told the incredible story about how Richard Hoagland had filmed a TV documentary show inside a Masonic lodge called UFO Diaries back in 1993 that contained many new faces on Mars images that have never been released to the public before by Richard Hoagland and NASA. That investigation continues on to this very day. Gary has worked directly with Richard Hoagland as well in the past, researching Mars on Hoagland's website, Enterprise Mission. Gary is also well known inside the Mars research community, not just for being a whistleblower, but also because of the things he finds on Mars, which makes Gary convinced that the real Mars is artistically sculptured on an entire planetary scale, and the powers that be are trying to keep a policy of cover-up of the truth. You can find his bio and his website at thesecretteachings.info. That's www.thesecretteachings.info. You'll find a link to Gary's website, thefacesofmars.com. That's thefacesofmars.com. When we come back, hopefully we'll be talking with Gary Leggiere, a.k.a. the Mad Martian. Again, I'm Ryan Gable. I've got Ira Robinson with me, host of Open Eyes Radio, and the website, www.thesecretteachings.info. Hang on tight. We'll be back in about 5 or 6 minutes, so hang on tight. We'll be right back.
The new priests are the purveyors of the now. If you don't get this right now, you are doomed. mindset that is surrounding us was created by these men in black, these dark masters, these puppet masters that control the strings. They, the ones with the real knowledge of how reality works, those that know and understand the origins of us, those are the ones controlling the masses through the media, through the politics, through everything that causes us to be divided, losing the sense of what is really real. That reality is that we are all connected, all together in this thought experiment that the universe is running. We are intimately connected together, forever traveling through the universe at light speed. We're all breathing the same air. The same energies pass through us. The same emotions that you feel are the same emotions that I feel. We are all one. Stop being divided by them. Stop letting the priests of chaos and light rule you. Stop believing the lies.
People who question the official version of events are usually labeled with the term conspiracy theorist, since this term is associated with paranoia and insanity. The person's questions are immediately dismissed as the rantings of someone who has gone mad, and using the ad hominem argument by immediately attacking the person rather than addressing their question, no matter how seemingly insane it may at first sound, a preconceived, often repeated storyline is allowed to exist and masquerade as absolute truth. If you train the masses to laugh at what they don't understand and to dismiss it as nonsense, then you have essentially eliminated free thought and critical thinking with little to no physical force. By setting the standards for what is possible or not, by what is apparently right or wrong, you are able to engineer an entire group of people and thus influence their choices and lifestyles to fit the corporate, political, socio-economic agenda of the real men behind the curtain. This has been an alternative fact brought to you by The Secret Teachings. You're listening to The Secret Teachings. For more information, you can visit thesecretteachings.info, where you can find a full list of downloadable episodes, top news articles, links to our Facebook page, and ways to catch the show no matter where you're located. For questions, comments, or requests, you can email us at rdgable, that's rdgable @yahoo.com. Stay tuned.
The physical world we see with our brains is truly an illusion, an energetic expression of consciousness. We see less than 1% of what exists within white visible light, yet profess to understand the nature of existence. A physical matter made of hollow particles perceived as physical only by our DNA, brain, and five-sense decoding system, decoding a series of biological zeros and ones in the forms of A, C, T, and G. Occultists call this the Grand Illusion, and this is the name of my first book, The Grand Illusion: Slaves to Perception. My name is Ryan Gable, and I'm the author of The Grand Illusion and host of the radio show The Secret Teachings. It is my perspective that we are all slaves to perception, programmed to react rather than to think critically, programmed to consume, to mock those who are different than you, and to outcast others that are different than the acceptable social norms. In the book The Grand Illusion, I have broken down what we call reality into 3 parts. In part 1, I explore the big questions of who we are, where did we come from, and of course religious teachings rooted in astronomy, commonly known as astrotheology. In the second part of The Grand Illusion, I explore the history of central banks and world wars, international networks of child abusers, geoengineering of our environment, secret societies, UFOs, and the paranormal. In the third part of The Grand Illusion, I explore political assassinations, symbols, and sacred geometry, and how, with the evidence I've provided, my belief is that events like 9/11/2001 and the 2012 London Olympics were mass energy rituals. The book is over 700 pages and filled with years of my own research, which I believe is separated from others in this field by the way that I approach such topics, such as UFOs, how some will just simply either believe or automatically disbelieve, choosing a predetermined, pre-conclusive side in that argument, when in fact I believe that the alien myth is some type of cover for something else, and we'd explore that in The Grand Illusion. How secret societies are not a group of men, sometimes women, worshiping the devil, that in fact they are remnants of ancient mystery schools. And of course, my rare coverage of Gaza and the international network of pedophiles. But regardless of your opinions or beliefs, The Grand Illusion has something for everyone, including an entire chapter on health, my own personal experiences and how to eat non-GMO, information on hidden ingredients and deceptive labels from companies, as well as the ingredients and ways to opt out of vaccinations legally. Now, I could tell you that my book, The Grand Illusion, Slaves to Perception, will change the world or help you to survive the end times or get you closer to God, but that's exactly the type of deceptive mentality that I attempt to expose in the book, living without fear and instead being informed. If you would like a copy of The Grand Illusion, Slaves to Perception, you can purchase the copy at thesecretteachings.info. That's thesecretteachings.info. Click on the Shop tab, and you have your choice of softcover or PDF. There is no regulation or editing of what I wrote in this 700-page book. And if you'd like a free sample, you can email me at rdgable@yahoo.com. That's over 700 pages, 3 parts, and 13 chapters. Visit thesecretteachings.info and click on the Shop tab today to order your copy of The Grand Illusion, Slaves to Perception. The book will also be available from Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Don't be afraid, be informed. Welcome back to The Secret Teachings. I'm your host, Ryan Gable. I am joined tonight by guest host Ira Robinson, host of Open Eyes Radio. Our website is www.thesecretteachings.info. That's www.thesecretteachings.info. If you head on over to the website, you will find a link to our guest Gary Leggiere's website. Hopefully Gary will be joining us here in just a few minutes. He was busy the first time we gave him a call. Hopefully he's finished with whatever he had going on. And if you go over to our website, you will also find the Secret Teachings archive with a full list of all of our past episodes that you can download for free. You can also stream those episodes off the website for free. On the website at the top right, you will also see a donation button, and please help support the Secret Teachings with donations. Any donations over $15, you can have a free PDF of one of my books, either The Grand Illusion, Slaves to Perception, or False Prophets and the Lovers of Children. You just send me a message asking for one of those, and I will send that to you with a $15 donation to the Secret Teachings. And that money helps me to be able to support myself off air so that I can be on air more and provide you with more Secret Teachings, if you will. So, Ira, welcome back. And I thought we had a pretty good conversation in the first half hour for not really having anything prepared. What do you think?
I do too, most certainly. I always enjoy the topic. I like to try to spread a little bit of truth around as far as, you know, the different thoughts on the dark night of the soul and what we kind of go through in this transformative process in our lifetimes, you know, that this ongoing creative process. We are creators. That's what it really comes down to. And that, again, kind of alludes to what you were speaking about earlier, that the truth is that we are all God, you know?
That's true.
Even if you go into the basic thinking of things from the Christian perspective of things, you know, God is at least according to that thinking, you know, everything, all things are God. So if that's the case, then why can't we be considered to be God as well? We're just, you know, we're cells within this body of the Creator.
That
you know?
puts the power back into the hands of the individual person, which a controlling, whatever you want to call it, a controlling hierarchy, oligarchy, technocratic society, a controlling elite class of any type does not want to put the power into the hands of the people, because by doing that, that relinquishes their power. So they find a way to deceive you, to trick you into giving up that power, to looking for the safety that you could provide for yourself, in a sense, whether that's religious or physical, by looking to an authority figure to protect you from the terrorists, to protect you from going to hell, to be able to communicate with God, because you're not necessarily that spiritually evolved. You need a priest to be able to communicate with God. No, you don't. You are God. Communicate with yourself. You don't have to go to church to be able to figure that out. And that notion over the centuries has been met with ridicule and assassinations in a lot of cases. One in particular, Akhenaten, the ruler of Egypt, who brought in the first form of monotheism. He shut down a lot of the temples to some of the sun gods and erected a new temple to the sun disk, Aten, but also that this sun disk, this sun god, was the source of all wisdom and all knowledge, and that god figure was inside of you. And of course the priests, along with the military, revolted and conspired to kill him because of that belief system that he attempted to install. I didn't say that I agreed with every aspect of it, just the notion that by attempting to do that, that's a perfect example of cutting out the middleman. And that's going to obviously make somebody upset when they lose their job, when you interfere with them and their way of life, if you will.
Yeah, most certainly, especially when you look into how the priest castes originated in a lot of the different religions. They spoke on behalf of God. It's just kind of the culmination or the next stage, basically, of the shamanistic perspective, where the shamans had the ability to speak with the spirit realm, speak with the spirit world, speak with the animals, and so on and so forth. And the priest class are just an extension of that shamanistic type of thinking, only now instead of speaking to the spirit world, they're speaking to God, or they're getting messages from God or getting information from God. And because you are not a priest, you don't have the capability of speaking to them. So, you have to have this middleman that's there. Right. And by the way, God says that you have to give me your fatted calf to sacrifice it. The first 10% is going to go into the fire as a sacrifice to God, but God also says that because I'm here as a priest on his behalf and speaking for him, that I have to be taken care of as well. I'm doing my job, so I have to be paid for my job. So I'm going to take the rest of the 90%, and I'm going to go ahead and feed myself and my family on this, and that's going to be my payment, for my services rendered, essentially. How much of that was actually just the guy saying, hey, by the way, I've been speaking to God, give me your big calf?
There's a sound clip I really wish I had put together for this show, but I was busy with a lot of things this week. I wasn't feeling too well, and there was a bunch of hockey on, so I was watching that. But I listened to this comedy bit by a comedian named Bill Burr, and he was talking about how he was going to teach his kids, if he ever had kids one day, about different things in life, like religion. And he's saying to his kid, don't listen to what anybody else says. Don't listen to what your mother says. God is inside of you. Don't listen to them. We're not going to church because why would I go to church? If God is right here, I can talk to him right here. I got to go down there. Down there, I owe him money, and he's pissed at me. I mean, that's kind of what it's like. I thought that was really, really really humorous. I'll try to find that clip.
It really is. It works just as well. I mean, when you think about the way that, again, things originated, I guess one thing that I've always thought is a strange thought, and these are the things that I think in the middle of the night, is, we could be considered, you and I could be considered agnostic, at best. We don't really know for sure, so we just take whatever is on the face value and prove it otherwise, right?
That's right.
So for me, I always wonder, if the Council of Nicaea had changed things into a different way, and instead of doing the texts that we currently have, they went with the Gnostic texts, how drastically different things would be.
Completely
because
different.
That's actually what happened. That's what happened in that origination in the year 325 or so. At the Council of Nicaea, the Bible was put together. That's the book that we currently see and have access to. What if they, instead of throwing away the Gnostic texts and making them illegal to even look at, what if they had actually included those in the Bible instead of the texts that we currently see? This would be a radically different place.
Yeah, we'd be looking at a completely different culture. We'd be looking at a completely different religious structure, a completely different type of hierarchy. I mean, it would be a completely different kind of world.
It really would, and I think it would have been a better world personally. I mean, you look into some of the Gnostic texts, and a lot of them speak about, leave each other alone, could be concerned about yourself, what you're doing, in relation to your relationship with God. All of that kind of stuff is right there in the Gnostic text, including, for instance, the apocalypse of Christ himself. There's that book that's out there, the apocalypse or the gospel, the gospel of Mary, Mary Magdalene. There's also a gospel of Mary, his mother. The gospel of Thomas. That's a great one. I don't know if you've ever read that one or not.
Yeah, I have it in the Gnostic Bible I have here, printed by Shambhala. If you never read the Gnostic Bible, get on that. I haven't read the entire thing, but damn.
It's very, it's opening, it's eye-opening and it's spirit-opening. It really is to go through the transformative experience of the actual Gnostic texts. It's amazing, the information that's in it. And a lot of it you can look at and say, wow, I agree with this.
Yeah, you absolutely can. I mean, if you read the Hypostasis of the Archons, if you read, another one I haven't been able to get my hands on is the Pistis Sophia. That is supposed to be a tremendous work of art, if you will, and explaining this fake reality that we have as Sophie, goddess of wisdom and knowledge. Essentially, it says the text says she accidentally gives birth to this Ialdabaoth, I think is the name of the demiurge, and that he proclaims that I am God, I am everything, I was here before everything that exists. And she tells him basically that, what the hell are you talking about? An enlightened humanity existed long before you came about. And that same kind of mentality that I am out of the Gnostic text is the same kind of mentality that, who's that guy, Ira? Yahweh. I am. And you listen to me.
The Israelites will know that you are speaking to me when you tell them that you have been speaking to the I am.
Let me just drop it right here on the line for you. Yahweh is like the biggest asshole I have ever read about in any book I've ever read. This guy is a real piece of work. If you want an image of a true psychopath, forget the psychology books. Forget reading about Jeffrey Dahmer. Forget reading about mass shooters and people like that. Read about Yahweh. This guy is a piece of work. But with that on a side note, and with a lot of people sending me emails right now telling me I'm going to hell, let me go ahead and take the time to get Gary back on the line. He messaged me and said he is ready. So let's hope that this doesn't cut you off. If it does, I'll get you right back on, Ira. Ready?
Okay.
Here we go. We'll go ahead and give Gary a call, and we'll go ahead and it already dropped Ira off. Add Ira back in here, and we will see what happens. Tell you what, this Skype thing, ladies and gentlemen, is just a huge pain. But I guess can't complain too much. And the verdict is it's not going to work that time either. Ira, are you still with me?
I am now.
So now I'm having trouble contacting Gary. Now it's telling me that the number, I guess, is invalid or something here. It's not registering.
I gotta love it.
Here we go. And as soon as I do it, it hangs up on me. All right. Let's try it this way this time. We will copy and paste the number into there. This is what it's like doing a type of live radio. Very, very fun. Never know what's going to happen.
Hello?
Hey, Gary.
Yes.
Welcome.
Brian.
Well, yes. Welcome to the Secret Teachings. You got everything ready to go? You ready to talk about Mars tonight?
Oh, you know it, bro.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and let me bring my guest co-host, Ira, back in here. He got disconnected, and we will get started. Ira, are you with us? Ira, can you hear me? Perhaps I'll get him one in a second. But anyway, Gary, I read the bio a little bit ago before we took a break. Maybe for those who don't know who you are, could you give us a little bit of a background on who you are and what you do, and maybe people who are new to this information, what it's all about?
Well, my work came into this regards to Mars in '98. Richard C. Hoagland had approached me, though I didn't know who he was. Never heard of the man before until I was approached. He was under a different name under the ICQ program. And we got to talking and told me even some interesting things then, even about Carl Sagan on his deathbed, but we'll leave that to another time. But ultimately, it led a relationship with this individual, and he brought me over to this site called EnterpriseMission.com. Lo and behold, well, obviously, thus his name, Enterprise Mission 2001, it was his site. And ever since then, I was an honorary member and brought into this field. It started basically, though, because of the face of Cydonia. For me, the day I got on the Internet, got a computer and got on the Internet in 98, I did a search, and for the face of Mars, because I remember after searching for other things, I remember in the past, of seeing a picture on a book of a base on Mars. I said, what the hell, boom, type it in. And it was that day that graybeard Mike Malin of Malin Space Science Systems released or proposed, came to be termed as the cat box image from 98. You may be familiar with that one, right, Brian?
Yeah, I don't have the picture up on the website, though. I need to get a lot of these photos to put up with for the show today.
Oh, that's cool. When this gets archived, maybe you can put links. I'll send you some pics, whatever need be, if that's cool with you or however that works. So, more benefit to the listener. Yes, pictures are important. But basically that's where it started for me, so because of what I see on Mars, and that, like Hoagland always said, it's a good science, Gary. Just not now. I was like, what the hell does that mean? Because I was claiming, and speaking for a few months with this individual, that what I see is Mars. I'm sorry, I'm seeing an artistically sculpted entire planetary surface. That's the Mars I see in the images, and even on once. I'm sorry, not just because of the face of Mars. Let me backtrack. I once seen a Time magazine that had a color, it might have been from Viking Image, on the cover. And people might know it. It had to have been, early 90s or late 80s. And I could swear I seen that thing sculpted like snake scales and like how it would look, but like a picture within a picture. And something just didn't look right. To me, I'm like, that was a work of art, and I would walk. It was in a dentist's office, that's why, or something like that. So I was like, I wanted to take the cover, but I didn't think nothing of it. But I always kept the picture in my mind, because years later, after looking into the face image and started looking in images of Mars, which is very important, people. Use your own eyes and analytical prowess here, all right? That's what it's really about. Never mind what someone tells you what is or what isn't. But that's policy. But anyway, it's artistically sculpted. And, it's good science, Gary. So that's when at the time he invited me over to his site. Lo and behold, it turned out to be this man. He took me under his wing. I was, in time, being called anomaly hunters. You may be familiar with that term. If you're looking at Mars, want to find for weird things, or even not just Mars, all over the solar system. There's stuff out there. They call anomalies. Anomalies. That's because no one knows what the hell it is, and they have no term for it, but something just don't look right. Or that has been also come turned as a definition amongst anomaly hunters, wink, wink, anomaly hunters, is that they have ghost hunters, everything else. So go figure. We're looking for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. In this case of Mars, via its surface features and or structures. Okay? This isn't like looking at clouds which come by and go, all the policy-driven drivel bullcrap, to keep it as boring as can be while they get the money and keep doing what they really see. Okay? But in time, that's part of policy. We can get into that this show or another. I discussed it with Michael Vara and others I know you're well familiar with there, Ryan, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yes, and he's been a very staunch supporter, of me, even more ways than one, obviously. He really impresses me. He's got, pardon the French, balls. And to look into something that demands answers. And that's why, I got into Mars and, Hogan brought me there. But why bring me to his site? And he took me under his wing. And, every time I create a radio show called the Martian Revelation Radio Show, how fitting, isn't that, people? And it will be on again. But let's just say I'm on a hunt. I'm an anomaly hunter. And I'm looking, I'm in for the kill, to live, to eat, to survive, right? So, that's what it's turned out to be now. But the importance of this is that I was with them for a few years there. You know, in 2003, I was mailed anonymously a disc with a video on it that Hoagland's also in. Everything was good up until then. You know, 2003, I got it. 2006, I released it. I never mentioned it to him or anyone else, not even my own dying mom. I never showed it to no one. And that's the thing about this, because the timing could have been better and or worse in my life. To drag it off the shelf as like feeling, Ryan, like I had a card to play. You know that feeling like it's something in your grasp or whatever it is you're doing. And you feel like whatever's in your hands, you look at it and you're like, wait a minute. This is something.
Yeah, there's something to this.
Yeah. Yes, and even though you don't know, and why, especially with the important stuff I've seen, why did I keep it on the shelf for 3 years? I mean, normally me and being who I am, an anomaly hunter, this gets more to his attention, as the famous Eighth of Mars guy, the Monuments of Mars and our Dark Mission, Secret History of NASA, it takes a new meaning. We'll do this show or another. But the thing is, this is where it started. This is, humble beginnings, if you will. Either way, it was my beginnings. And it was my vision for what I wanted to create on the Space Coast of Florida, on WMEL, right at NASA's front door. I was the only one that could ever plant that flag there, by the way. And an opening for Hoagland. Now, think about that. With all the controversies, Ryan, of Cydonia at that time and the issues of the face and the structures, and, it was perfect fitting. You know what I mean? And then, but when I brought this out in 2006 about this video I received anonymously that someone wrote on the package, I hope you see, ... I hope you see it. I guess I see it because I see faces of Mars that the public's never known about, and over 13 years since it was made, and no one else seen it but me, because I was anonymously mailed this, postmarked in my town, no less. How the hell would that be? And no return address. So there's something weird about this, okay? Because, again, other faces of Mars imagery that, again, there's in a video that Hoagland himself is in, but not seen in any connections to those scenes with those new faces. You following me? Now, the importance of what I do, because this goes back to your question, this is important to me. It's like I'm driven. I see things there that a lot of people go over, they don't see, or I'm not going to say they're not able to, because I do. I mean, it's not like some guru, but the thing is, there's stuff there that's being slowly coming out in better detailed images, and even then the quality could still be questionable, but the details are coming out more slowly. And the thing is with these faces of Mars, because 98, remember, started a cat box image, and the policy on that is a trick of light and shadow. You might as well believe in Bigfoot. You're ridiculed and everything else. Well, yet they still send mission to mission after mission after mission to Mars. And they got Cydonia well covered, pun intended. And you know what I'm saying? And we only get a cat box image, and then there's control from MRO. We get, again, a questionable high-rise image. Things are right, but they're not right. But then how things would look if we get close to these things. Remember, this face of Cydonia is a mile wide, a mile and a half long. That's the size of the area I live in. That's a big chunk, I mean, this is a work of wonder. So the closer you get, you're not going to see the precision of the detail you see from far away. You will see, it looks like rocks, but if you look closely, they're striated, the thing's patterned, it's crisscrossed, it's chiseled. I mean, and then no one's looking at it like that. They're rocks, because that's all they've been taught to believe in. Any kind of ruins they attribute to things here on Earth, like the Giza pyramids or the Sphinx. But we have conditions on Mars that not only it makes these giant structures possible to create, but the probability of survivability in the type of conditions that even may have had once if it did have water. There might be speculations on that of evidence, but remember, you see, this is so hard to explain. Well, and again, it goes back to the importance
Gary,
of what we're seeing and what we're not, and I'll shut up for a moment.
What they do, it seems, is they give us this preconceived, in science specifically, they have this preconceived idea of what should be. They look for evidence to support that theory. When evidence comes along, such as anomalous photographs, anomaly has kind of become a word that scientifically is some type of detailed, complex, technical explanation for describing the anomaly, when it's really not. It's a way to write off the anomaly as saying, hey, we really don't know, let's not look at that, and instead they'll show us photographs like about a year or two ago, I think maybe in 2013, they showed us this photograph from Curiosity on the surface of Mars, and they say, hey, look, it's a rock that looks like a jelly donut. It's a major distraction away from photographs that are really, really fascinating. What do you think about that?
It's mocking. It's mocking.
Yep.
They're not just doing it because it looks like a jelly donut. They're mocking you. They're mocking us because they got their hands on their thumbs on the controllers, the little red buttons, even maybe the little laser guns that better be on there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, granted, some things may have to be remain secret, but for things like this, of which the public should be privy to, of what is really on Mars. See, this all goes back even again to that UFO Diaries. Again, everything was great for years between one and myself until I brought that video out that he encouraged investigation. And the producers themselves say he provided them. How? Now, whatever happened and everything, there's so much ugliness on from that. The importance to investigate, one, that would be the policy we're being told, the face of Cydonia is a mere trick of light and shadow. It's a freak of nature. It's a coincidence, really. Well, now we're getting images that's not in any Viking public archive because I processed them all. It took me almost 2 years, literally, to do, and I will make them available on the facesofthemars.com eventually. I got plans for that site. Don't mock me either, people. Don't take the impression of me all wrong because I'm onto him and I'm onto the game. I'm onto the cover-ups. Yes, the cover-ups. The real Mars you think that you're now seeing is not the real Mars that they now know or that they now see. That's the thing that this UFO Diaries represents, and it represents Connections to Hoagland, who gave us the data, yet on the surface runs away from it, attacks, slanders me because I'm the principal investigator. I'm on his ass about it. But granted, if you or anyone else works it too, despite the attacks that'll come upon you, he will say the same thing about you while avoiding saying UFO Diaries, without saying the faces of Mars. But he will say images of Cydonia. He's the Cydonia. The name of that episode is called UFO Diaries Cydonia. So he's also he talks in code. See, that's where a lot of this confusion is, because we're seeing things that's being put out there that's trying to be told to us, but no one's allowed to acknowledge it because they sign documents. And based on the bookings, you're familiar with the bookings, Ryan, I believe. I believe, right?
You said the bookings or Brookings?
Brookings. The Brookings Institute study back in the
60s.
Actually, it was late 50s.
Late 50s? Yeah, but I remember that.
50s it became public to some degree, that there was a Brookings plan on the way. This UFO Diaries, believe it or not, is built and founded and designed and planned on the basis of their recommendations of how we will be presented or withheld. Think of it like a riddle. It's a code. And let's say under what circumstances, meaning it's under something. Why under what circumstances? Would we be presented or withheld? Well, obviously we're given stuff that's being presented undercover, and there's an underlying code, and the thing is, why? Because no one's allowed to acknowledge it, and they can't just acknowledge it without the acclamations that they feel that they recommended in time to the public to disseminate this information of what they expected. Get this, people, what they expected to find on the moon, Mars, or Venus, as well as out there, the extraterrestrial artifacts that would be found there. Notice they said that they expected that they would be found. And then once it was found, how they handle it. They said total suppression to sum it up. But not to keep it forever secret. It has to come out to us in a way to which because they feared that civilization would lose. Civilization would be
right,
destroyed.
like society would break down in that case.
Correct. Or, people can also worship the things as gods, even. I mean, we can see that. Remember the new Star Trek? What was it? Damn it. Lacan.
Into Darkness, the beginning where they're on that alien world.
Into Darkness.
Yeah.
Now, that's Code 2. Think about this, Ryan. This is Code 2, Dark Mission, The Secret History of NASA. Star Trek, Into Darkness. What is it with the dark and the light? Yeah, under what circumstances will we be presented or withheld? This confirmation and data of what they found out there is based on bookings, and how it will be presented. It was presented in that video. So on the surface, the public sector, and I'm jumping over a lot, but I'm summing it up, would have to take responsibility to see this, to present what they believe they found, and have the balls to pursue it, because on the surface, no one can acknowledge it, and their jobs are to fight it.
Gary,
Does that make sense so far?
It makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, these are a lot. You've never probably have you listened to the Secret Teachings before? Because these are concepts that we go over all the time. We just had a 3-part series on some of these photographs and some other anomalous objects that have been photographed.
To be honest, Ryan, I've heard a couple of shows you've been on with Mike and stuff. You guys go back and forth pretty good. At flows, but to be honest, I'm on the hunt. I'm on the hunt. And I'm focused. I listen to things when I can. I'm busy. I'm not making excuses. Again, I wouldn't be on with you. I like how you sound, and and I've seen you post, with friends on Facebook, and every now and then I try to listen in, and what really piques my interest. So forgive me, but it will be more so now. It's by what you're telling me, because then it shouldn't be that much harder to the bizarre twist. If you've heard me on L&M and other shows speak about the complexities of my life and my experience, and in trying to stay sane, to try to solve this for all of us, because this is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah,
but it's a test.
Let me ask you about this, because this is something that we talked about, one of dozens and dozens of hundreds of topics we talked about in our 3-part series a few weeks ago, and that was just the idea that there have been 40 international missions to Mars since like 2000, and over half of them have failed, and there have been over a dozen of missions that have failed to Mars just from the United States. Do you think that is a big scam, which is personally what I think?
Yes, it's a cover. Just like when the Mars Observer got there precisely 6 p.m. It went off. Oh, we lost it. Yeah, precisely at 6 p.m. Okay, we get it. I get it. And when you learn how to see between the light and the dark in this code of theirs, and even in Hoagland's code, because it's all the same. Why? Because it's part of the acclimation test. Again, in the darkness, Dark Mission, Secret History of NASA. Hoagland is NASA in code, by the way. But remember what I brought up about the Enterprise in that movie? I mean, what was the opening scene? They were on what? Nibiru, no less.
That's
but they
right.
were hauling ass from these other boogers chasing them, right? These alien other boogers were chasing them, because Kirk had a scroll of theirs, which was within their sacred scroll of text, or whatever their religion, obviously, that was supposed to represent. They haul ass, they drop it, they know they're done, they jump off the cliff. Lo and behold, the giant eye comes out up to the cliff, past the cliff. The other boogers are looking. Oh, my gosh. They throw their scroll down. They throw the Enterprise. That became the new God. Okay? So that's what I was trying to say. In a new sense, in the way Brookings looked at that aspect and feared that aspect, and at least, look, Hoagland can really answer. He's the one that know. I'm going by what's logical and what I'm coming to my conclusions and what I'm being taught in this invisible college, as it was.
Do you fully believe that's the reason?
Break through the veneer to bring out this information.
Do you fully believe that's the reason, though, Gary, that they're just scared that society will break down, or is that maybe a cover for something else, some other excuse?
Well, of course, I think it's legitimate to some degree. Now, what do I mean? All right, There's World War II, a Philippine island somewhere. You got, the boogers running through there with bones in their nose. These birds from heaven come flying down, bringing so much food with them. Oh, my God, such nice people. Yes, we'll do anything for. War ends, they're gone. They fly away. All the food's gone, disappears. They start building bamboo airplanes that look just like the planes that used to land. They light it on fire once a year in commemoration and try to signal them to come back. You get what I'm saying?
Gary, let me interject something here real quick as well, just for the listeners' sake, and maybe for yours. I don't know. I assume that you've seen like the poster for Star Trek Into Darkness. I'm a big Trek freak, by the way.
Nice.
On the movie poster of Star Trek Into Darkness, you see, the person who is supposed to be Khan walking out of this dark, destroyed type of thing, and what you see is this destroyed structures all over the place. They're falling apart. They're destroyed. It looks like something had gone through, like a time had passed over, and that these were falling apart. Basically, of course, it was for different reasons in the movie, but still, regardless, in the
movie it was from that giant black. In the movie it was from that giant black Enterprise. Right. Black, right, exactly. Dark, get it? Enterprise slamming into the city, crushing civilization, but notice civilization was still standing. People were still alive, but look how devastating. I thank you. You know what? You hit it on the damn head. Or can that implicate the signs of what happened on Mars or some other, of what this represents? But go ahead. I like your thinking.
So yeah, the thought that immediately came to my head with all the things that you're talking about is the idea of the fact that on Mars we do see all of these destroyed and decrepit structures, the ones that have been there for, who knows how long, eons, whatever the case may be. And when you look at this poster, for instance, it's like the exact same type of things that you would see there. You look in the images that you provide, and it's like it's a duplicate almost. It's really weird.
Well, isn't that interesting? Well, think of the concept of Khan, and what you just described. Think about it and applicate it in this way. All right, Khan is alive. Why? Because of something that happened through time that changed the original future to an alternate. Not really that alternate, just changed for that dimension. It changed the future and the reality because of that Romulan dude that was pissed off. The thing is, he went through time, he made changes, and it created a new timeline in Spock. But old Spock was trying to lay that out, even to us, and I believe it's a science. I believe there's even code in that, and what they're really trying to tell us is what is going on in this world upon this disclosure. For us to have this Star Trek type of world, we have to be acclimated to what's out there.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And in fact, if you want to go even further, the substance that was used to cause this alternate timeline to be formed was called red matter.
Oh, correct. Gotcha. But get this. Look where that red matter came from. What was Spock's ship?
I do not remember right offhand, actually. I'm sorry.
No. Remember? Well, think about it. Remember that movie when he released it? Well, he was carrying it and running away. Either way, it was in the ship already. Now, it looked like blood, didn't it? But that stuff. But if you noticed when you're looking at it, that's how it sounded as it's whizzing by, spinning. He looks like he's sitting on a pyramid chair. Yeah. For one, the window is open. It's a circle. It looks like he's in a pupil of an eye. And the eye in the center was the pyramid. What are they trying to tell us? Because there's that symbolism that's in UFO Diaries.
And behind it was the spinning circle from the engine and everything. Yeah.
That's the movie Contact. Remember the Contact?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
The spinning circles. The time dimensional thing. Yeah, you see, something's trying to be told. I'm going through a twilight zone where all these concepts fit, and what I'm doing is changing because of what I'm doing and what I'm finding and what I'm having the balls to pursue, no matter where it leads or no matter what it leads to. he changed the future because I already acted on this intelligent advice for me to get the high ground. I moved my life and everything. It described what I was doing, what happened to me, what my enemy did, where a car accident, other things in my life. It made me know, Gary, this is a communication. I know what you guys are thinking. But, Gary, I know this is a communication. Hold last. Get the high ground. Learn farming. Oceans are going to come out of their basins. They give other reasons. I'm not going to get into all this now. But all I'm saying is this, that the future has already been altered from a previous future that was already seen or experienced. And somehow I am in this position like a test at the same time. And is it to drive one crazy? Because here's the ultimate thing. Why am I bringing this up? Because bookings again. Under what circumstance? They feared that people would just freak out in general on an individual basis, never mind the society. And I went, and I have experienced it, but I've overcome it because I'm still pursuing it. I've grasped the reality. Okay, this is an intelligent contact from the Twilight Zone. All right, I have to deal with that reality without being thrown in the rubber room like Hoagland tried to do. Had Dr. Robbins pretend to be my doctor to try to do, to avoid answering questions to you all 6 years ago, 8 years ago. So check that out. Now think about the implication of the time factor. Because this is a code down to time. Hoagland's speaking it, NASA's speaking it, they're mocking you, even in some of the images, believe it or not. Like Hoagland's sneaker. Remember that? The Hoagland sneaker, the Nike on Mars? You know, the sneaker really represents a code back to that UFO Diaries, where we were thrown some sneakers, those faces, where he officially gave them in the past, but he couldn't acknowledge it. But why? There's a code to it. They want us to see it. They want us to find it. But do we deserve to? I didn't freak out. I'm not destroyed, am I? So therefore I overcome. Now I can help condition you all how to see it. So it changes the reality. It changes the reality. Not to mention the future's already changed because I acted on it. But now I have to help you all, your consciousnesses, not go through everything I had to learn and experience through this nightmare, but you can come to see the conclusions and follow the data, because there's data to follow. There shouldn't be nothing if I was a nut. Now, therefore, and it continues with information, and it's leading to a time and place, which isn't that far away, according to him, where he will be able to acknowledge this freely, because I'm making it, basically, I'm summing up, safe to be seen, and this is part of the bigger disclosure process, to where my voice, he told me years ago in code, yet outright I didn't figure it out till years later, that my voice was an important part, and I was part of this group, even whether they know it or not, he said. We're part of this acclamation program, and your voice is a very big part in doing it, Gary. I think your show's going to take a huge shot in the arm. Yeah, he set me up on the surface, destroyed me because he wanted to run, but yet he encouraged investigation. All right, something fishy here. Producer said he gave them images on behalf of NASA. Really? Mr. Hoagland? Oh, well, that was made. Well, weren't you standing at the UN talking about the mere trick of light and shadow? Again, mere trick of light and shadow was their official public policy, correct, people? Remember? Okay. Mere trick of light and shadow, light and dark, dark mission. Get it? A war of light and the dark. It's code speak. I know you guys don't understand me now, but in time we will. I promise. Yeah, especially if you have me on again, that is.
Well, yeah, believe me, I understand the underlying code. Maybe there's a different kind of a code that you're speaking of, but these are a lot of, I mean, the reason I wanted to have you on, Gary, was because in the last about a month and a half, I've been having a lot of synchronistic events that have been happening. I started reading a book series that I've read before, and it was a friend of mine who's an author who's been on the show before, and he was talking a lot about Mars and his theory of where humans originated from. And I'm reading that, and at the same time, he's talking about, he mentions remote viewing, and that exact week I got 2 emails from listeners of my show saying, hey, you should have this guy on, Courtney Brown from the Farside Institute. He did a remote viewing study on Cydonia, Mars. And all this transpired. I had Courtney on the show. I did another show about Mars. I did another 3 shows about all of these anomalies throughout the solar system as NASA and everybody tells us to look out there in other galaxies for life. Look out there. It's always out there, giving us hope that it's out there somewhere when the evidence exists that it's right here in our own backyard, and they have us distracted by looking elsewhere. And all that transpired to get you onto the show today. And I wanted to ask you, overall, Gary, what is the point of all of this? What is the underlying theme of all of these anomalous images, the faces that are found on Mars? Did humans come from Mars? Do we have a civilization that exists there now? What is the big deal with all of this?
As far as I know, and I'm going to be openly honest, there's people that are pushing that. All right, there are people that are pushing the opposite end of that same spectrum. You know, they came here, or we came, look, there's no proof. No proof. We don't even know how old the damn place is. People speculate. They want, so many billions. Yeah, prove it. Get me there. Let me see the shit. Let me see what's going on, because I know what I'm looking for, baby. Send me there before sending Joe Schmo who just wants to set up a colony somewhere in the crater rim somewhere. Yes, I know the right crater rim to go to. I'll just say that. But, who would you rather send? Okay, let's put it this way. Who came from Mars? Who came to Mars? Is the question. Somebody may know that, but I do believe, hopefully admits it, code or not. Those libraries are there. It just depends on who gets there first. So much code. And I got in there first. The starting gun fired years ago. This is a representation of what and who is also behind this code, because the recommendations of bookings was also not just to give us the data under what circumstances would we be presented or withheld, not just the data, but contact. Contact, which means what? Well, if they obviously knew we would find structures out there, why base it on the model to where contact would be made? And I'm going to admit right now, and I don't care what anyone thinks, contact has been made with me through this code down through time, through the Twilight Zone, and it's shown me things about my past, about my enemy. Well, he's managing me to think of him as my enemy, but he's really managing me to succeed, not to destroy me. I mean, a lot of, come on. But look, this is the reality I am convinced of. I was communicated to, and they had a message for the Earth. You want to know what those 2 main ones are? There's more, but here's the 2 main ones. You want to know them?
Sure, go ahead. Let us know.
Okay, 1. This is how worlds communicate. Think about that sometime, people, and ponder it. 2, you people are wasting on Earth, are wasting your time, and billions of dollars on looking for extraterrestrial intelligent communications from radio, astronomy, telescopes, and, satellites up there in space. Why? Well, look at this guy down here that we mailed the message through time to. We slipped one by you. Again, refer to number 1. This is how worlds communicate. 3, it isn't us that's preventing you from seeing or knowing about us on and under the Martian surface. It is forces on your Earth that are preventing you from knowing the truth. Now, I think that's pretty implicating on who the identity of this contact through the bookings, under what circumstances, if we're being acclimated, and if this is a test, and if we pass the test, well, contact will be made. The future will be changed. And someone that's trying to cover it up, well, I'm a threat to them. I'm John Connor in that sense. But yet, there's a side of them that are hoping that I do this. Because remember, it wasn't just them that are behind this. This was Hollywood heavy hitters that made this video. Now, is this being made on a top secret bookings type mission where they actually had contact with actual beings to help make this Twilight Zone code down through time that know who would find it? That knows who it's supposed to, that has a plan for that person, even for up to that point, whether it's up to contact or just verification and validation of what I'm doing now. And I've discussed this with Mr. Mike Barra, and you guys hopefully will listen to those archives. Get ready for a ride, and it's the spookiest, and at least you'll be the most entertained of any potential Mars scenario or guest you will ever have on, because I see things that they not even see, and, well, I'm not boasting. Ask them if they've heard of me, if they know of me. They all have. And what are they going to say? Well, how can they debunk my work? They use my work in their books. I'm not stupid, so don't take me wrong. Yeah, I might have an attitude. I have a reason behind it. But you know what? I'm on a mission. And the thing is, it's very important that we all look to really what's out there and not look to NASA as the organization to openly tell you anything when it's all a policy that they can't.
I definitely agree with that. Never a straight answer. Ira, you had a question.
I do. It's actually a bit of a long question/statement for you, Gary.
No problem. I've been talking a lot, and I appreciate that. I know Mike gives me a lot of leeway, and he's real cool, and I am who I am. When I'm a host of my show, it's different. I'm like you guys. But this is very important. I appreciate the time and the space, especially with the latest finds, which I've been finding, which I'm sure that prompted you to have me on. The Star Face of Mars, we'll talk about that later because you brought up, Ryan, about the faces. But go ahead, Ira.
So there is a band out there called Arion, and they have an overarching storyline that is their whole basis of being. The storyline goes like this. There is an alien race that has basically gotten itself to the point where it is essentially immortal, but in order to do that, they had to sacrifice their emotions to do it. They became basically almost machine-like. They, through the process of their lifetimes, they want to relearn what being emotional is all about, so they actually create these beings called human beings. And they have seeded this planet called Earth that allows them to basically live vicariously through the human beings and learn what emotions and that kind of thing are all about. Now, okay, throughout the process of human life, what they've discovered is that the human beings are on this path to destruction, and that by the year 2084, human beings have destroyed themselves. So the aliens contact by sending through time a message, hoping that someone would end up hearing the message and receiving it and warn humanity about this coming future. And so one person does receive the message, gets the message, tries to get the information out, but nobody believes him. He's just a blind minstrel who nobody believes or understands. It was actually in the Middle Ages, basically. So he tried to communicate through the future as well. And essentially it was Merlin who who destroyed this blind minstrel and prevented him from getting the information out. Merlin hid the things in code throughout the rest of humanity so that other humans could maybe find the code and the information and get the truth of things. But in the end of things, human beings constantly have gone through this cycle and end up ultimately destroying themselves over and over. Nobody believes this message that's being sent through time. Your story reminds me so much of this storyline that's being told with it, and it's just amazing to me to see what.
Well, I don't like the outcome. And I know that is a great possibility. Because again, why me? Was it set up to fail? I'm not the smartest guy on the block, and I ain't the stupidest either. But you know what? Why me? Out of a million other people, I've had that question, asking myself for a long time, and I freaked out long ago because this is the devil, this is something spooky, and I erased my website, I destroyed so much work, but then I seen the video called Red Planet from 1952, Red Planet Mars, and I needed that. Whether anyone's opinion on it is whatever, I have it up there on my YouTube channel if you people want to see what I mean. It deals with Mars. It deals with codes. It deals with an intelligence speaking through codes from Mars. And lo and behold, through a Soviet spy. Okay, lo and behold, look at my situation with who? Who's Vladimir Vinsky, Mr. Hoagland? But anyway, none of these people might not get it, but I know you do. And that's the day when you tried to have me committed. I was in the hospital at that very moment asking you who it was while your Dr. Robin was on the phone to my doctor while you're trying to pretend to be my doctor. Why? I was getting too close to Vladimir Vinsky. Who is he? I want to see a picture of Vladimir Vinsky. Keep saying his name, Vladimir Vinsky. People, and look at Hoagland's face and want an answer. Someone knows who this man is. And I want to know, Mr. Hoagland, have you ever been to Moscow? Tell me I don't have a code down through time. Tell me someone has not intelligently communicated with me. No, I'm not hearing voices. I don't have to. It's a thing of intelligence. It uses your mind. And it taught me step by breadcrumb, step by step, to see it, to follow it. Me being entertained, knowing how impossible it is, only learning that I'm a Treyu in a never-ending story. And look where it's leading me, and look where you're running. But yet, look where you're leading me now. Yeah, this is so weird, people, because I'm actually fighting him as a means to, the only means I would have to fight back against someone that powerful and acting as an operative on you and your family, knowing you don't have the money to do crap about it, who destroyed your life, who you made you homeless. And then, lo and behold, I get an intelligence. I study this damn code to look at it deeper and more. It leads me to him. Why did all that happen to me? Because the intelligence led me to see him, and to understand what once he not wished to be photographed in the past, he was warned in the future to be prepared. For there will be indeed a connection seen with him being seen photographed to those images. And you only seen that through me. Why? Because I'm the one that seen it. I'm the one that it was failed to. Think of a mail. You send someone a message. This code wanted to describe me, to help me also stay sane and figure out that it was really real and what I was thinking. This thing had a way of answering my questions, too, believe it or not. After I ask, and then, let's say, I go down more, and I get an answer. It's like it knew what I would think. That's weird, unless you watch Back to the Future movies, you watch all these time movies, and it's certainly, especially Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure with those theories, working model, well, potentially strong theories, right? But using the media to acclimate or just to make a mockery or just to make an interesting story to entertain people. But it's based on science, and that is the factor of why I'm not freaked out anymore. I'm the eye's on me. It described I was a dog thrown into a pit with an older dog, a wiser dog, and there's something laying between us on the floor he's looking at me sweating, and I don't know what it is. And I'm told only one's walking out. Guess what I ran for? Okay? And I get the message. I got the message. And I have to do this. It has to be done, or I would have been destroyed. If I did not act on it, he may have succeeded in killing me down there. You wouldn't even know about this. It would have been shut up forever. All right, think of the things that was done to me. Out of these people that you guys pay and respect, and even me. I mean, think of how I felt. Never mind how the hell you guys feel. Think how I felt. And after being correcting it said more than once, boy, imagine what he would do to his real kid. I mean, holy crap, what the hell's going on? But how do you get somebody? How do you really get somebody to stay on your case that really wants you on their case, but is not openly showing that, obviously? You mess with them and their family, especially if you're not, a pushover, right? You want someone to look at it. He wants us to see his code. He wants us to help him kick his own ass. He's two people in one. And he represents the entire process of what these anomalies are termed as and how they're classified, pun intended, and how we get to see or not see what is really out there. The Mars we now know is not the Mars they now know. But because of this code and because of Hoagland and whoever's, all right, Martians, because remember, it ain't us preventing you, therefore, about us on our presence on and under Mars, that's telling me they're the Martians. Okay? So it was the Martians that helped these guys make this code, these Masons, no less. Because this was filmed in a Masonic lodge. The producer himself, when I said, sir, this sounds all nuts about what, because I brought up the code and everything, and, and I'm like, hairs on my neck standing up, all the list of questions I had for this producer. I didn't ask, I couldn't. I felt, because, for one, he's Grizzly Adams. Remember that show? Grizzly Adams. And all those religious shows, and all the Hangar 18 movie, and others. Silent Night, Deadly Night, but that was just a horror thing, but who knows, that's probably coded too. Dark and light, get it? What was the color of that guy's face in that movie? White, black, like the Star Trek episode, the white, black guy. Think about it. So,
well, yeah, that's your Masonic floor, Gary.
Then, therefore, the Masons are in touch with this extraterrestrial intelligence, whether they're Martians, or they may be Martians now, or who knows where the hell they're really from, and we may come to know that yet. But this is the acclamation to get us used to their presence, knowing who the real power is. No, the colossal powers living in their own planets. What does that mean, their own planets? They want us, as future generations, to understand, not that word, understand, the colossal powers living in their own planets, more than one. And I think Earth was being finger-pointed there, and they're inside our planet. Okay? There's a lot of things going on and with this code, and it's leading me, and there's a lot of this, some type of acclamation disclosure, and where I'm going to be now, I'm a threat to somebody, but at the end, I'm going to hope to somebody, too. So, it's like, damned if I do, damned if I don't. I had to come to the acceptance that I was a monkey thrown in, Francis Walsh said, Gary, you remind me of a hamster in the wheel. Maybe. Well, but the thing is, it was a hamster in the wheel set down through time by someone else's initiative, as it was, Bible type technology, I called it, to stay sane again, because, again, who the hell am I? But I'm Mars Revealer. I'm Gary Leggiere. I'm staying focused. I'm staying true to myself. I'm investigating despite what was done, despite the fear, despite the satanic implications. The producer also said could be there. Well, if this is, a Trojan horse, because I said this goes like a Trojan horse, he says that brings satanic things into this. Because, Gary, what side of the force? Notice that was his exact words, the light, the dark thing again. What side of the force gave this to us? Not just to me, he said to us, meaning he has it too. So, what was he trying to tell me? And I always had these strong feelings that these Masonic lodges do something, and we're passing on something down through time that we needed to know. And I'm just like in my mind going, dad, what the hell am I hearing? And I'm like, yes, sir. Yeah, oh my God. Oh my God. It was powerful. And the things that he said to me, without him and the other producer, Lee Eric Shackelford, the main producer is Charles E. Selye, owner and producer of Grizzly Adams Productions. Okay? And amazing. My day starts at 3:30 in the morning, and I love it. I get up this morning every morning at 3:30. Get it? 3:30 every morning. 33-degree Mason. I didn't put it. And he goes, obviously, I'm still talking to you this minute at night. Yeah, because I was in the dark. I was like, yeah, well, it was. We were talking 3:30 his time, when it's 5:30 my time, a.m., and that's when we did the show. We recorded it, right? And I heard these phenomenal things. The main thing that got my attention, obviously, right, at that time, which would, I'm sure you guys would hit too. Oh, we got them from Oakland, we got them from NASA. I mean, there you are. You might as well have been banging drum cymbals, right? There you are. One of them is going to say, yeah, those are ours. Really? Ours, huh? The Masons? Remember, these Masonic lodges knew something. What Masonic lodge? Where this was filmed. That they knew something. They were passing on something down through time that we needed to know. 13 years later, come on. 13 years later, I get this. I revealed this. 13. What's with this 13 number? I'm not a Mason. I didn't want to mess with nobody. I don't want to mess with secret societies. I'm a visionary. I'm an explorer, and that's why ultimately at the beginning of your show on background on me. That's what got. I'm an explorer. I think it's pretty damn cool. Think about how many lives Brian and Ira died dreaming that they could have what we have, even though credibility issues arise now and then, and definitely now. Remember, the Mars we now know is covered, but we get to see things that they would only have dreamt at night. They couldn't even imagine. So who am I to sit back with this spirit in me as a armchair astronaut? And that's legitimate.
Well, Gary,
when you find anomalies, they want to debunk that because they are under a policy and controlled. Because look, if someone comes out and tell you, never mind the documents they signed, whether they threaten to kill you or not, you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you. They pay you. They're the ones that run everything. Those in the know are the ones that pay everything to set the curriculums in colleges. And this code had a message about that, too, for those that's intended for in the future. But I'm not getting into that. Look, my point is, Ira, is I'm glad you can connect to kind of what I'm saying. I want to hear more of this from you sometime, because there's something to this. Because if what I'm going through and explaining, you said, well, at least back to Merlin, and Twilight Zone's the right word. You know what I mean? But it's real. It's real, and that, I know how nuts it sounds, but it's leading us on a path to where these faces of Mars, especially with what I'm finding now, like the star face of Mars, it's smaller, it's not looking the same, it's still looking like a similar structure with a signature of the intelligence and the designing of the construction of the face of Cydonia. Therefore, it's not near anymore. Therefore, it opens up and paves the way for the need and demand that we should take those images from UFO Diary seriously and investigate them like Mr. Hoagland, you wanted me to do for you to get you the information only for you to run and set me up. Bullshit. This is real. This is reality, people. Take me as you will. It don't matter, because you know what? Either way, when I win, the future changes. And all I need is 2% of you listeners to have the nuts to say, this guy may be onto something, whether you believe me or not, and want to side with me, because I'm looking for allies, not fans. I'm not looking to entertain you. I'm not looking to make you happy. I'm not looking to be a friend. I'm looking for allies in the fight so I can get back what's mine and maybe even get something for my troubles. A little change. What type of change? Not Obama's.
Well, Gary, you're definitely on the right show, because I'm not here necessarily to make friends. I'll make friends, but I'm here to make allies as well. I'm not here to kiss anybody's ass or to feed people some entertainment spectacle.
Gotcha.
So,
but I was speaking to the audience. I know you guys. You guys are up. Like I said, I wouldn't be on. I've heard you guys a couple times, but I didn't know to the depth. I'm surprised. I'm shocked what I'm hearing. Well, but in a way, I'm glad, because it makes me feel I'm not alone. Someone could possibly relate, because the only one I know for sure can relate, who's living and breathing, the producer is Mr. Soye is dead. He passed, and it may have been my fault. Even the night before his unknown passing, I had tried calling him, and he had tried warning me, but I couldn't listen. You understand? And how it makes me feel. And the thing is, he pleaded with me, he could do no more for me. He can't say no more. He coded enough, and I come to see that. But I still have to call him. Why? Because I need answers. I'm an explorer. Like I said, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't even want to hurt Hoagland. I want to get back. I want to foot up his ass now and then. And this code, in my mind, I was using to help me do that, because it's putting his words back in his mouth. But here's the thing. While doing that, he's saying what I'm doing. He's describing how I'm doing it. He's saying it's the right thing I'm doing to help change your consciousness to see what's really going on. For you 2%ers out there to have the balls to call in the Nori, call in the Hoagland, email them using the pictures that I'm putting out that you want answers for, and we will win. Why? Because it makes it safe to be seen.
Gary, I wanted to interject about what you mentioned earlier. You mentioned black and white, and you mentioned the number 13. And since you really haven't listened to the Secret Teachings that much, this is a huge factor in what I cover on my show, and it's also a huge factor in what I wrote in my 2 books. And that is the concept of dark and light, the concepts of good and evil. These are dualistic concepts that go back to the very beginning of ancient man, and religiously they came about with the Persian religion of Zoroastrianism from the prophet Zoroaster, and that led to the Persian religion of Mithraism, which led to the god Mithras in Rome, and led to the foundation, the fundamental foundation for Christianity, what would become the Vatican, which was actually built on an old sacrificial site for the god Mithra, the Persian, or the Mithras, the Roman god. Now, that concept of dark and light applied Masonically, you see the black and white Masonic floor, it is a notion of the dualistic concepts of Solomon's Temple, the 2 pillars of Boaz and Yonkin, the twin towers, the 2 towers in the Lord of the Rings movie. That relates a little bit to the planet Saturn.
And the face of Cydonia. And the face of Cydonia, half feline, half hominid.
Yeah, so dualistic concepts. Dualistic concepts, exactly. And that dualistic concept applied to the number 13, Gary. And the number 13 related to a variety of different subjects, such as the 12 signs of the zodiac. Once that 12 sign Zodiac is passed through by the sun in its yearly cycle, as everything is energy and recycling itself. It is rebirthed in the first month, the first house of the Zodiac, which becomes the 13th month. The number 13 is a number of regeneration and rebirth. Out of the darkness comes light.
Really?
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
What are the odds? What are the odds that I was mailed anonymously a video disc? Well, CDR disc at that time, 700 megabyte ones that was the most advanced, I think, at that time, besides the rewriter, but it wasn't a reliable. And I'm under his wing, and I'm the guy that brings this out. Now, mind you, Selye, here's something he said to me a lot, mind you. There's something there to that in code. But anyway, mind you, this was entirely scripted in 90. And I'm thinking to myself, really? Well, I remember seeing on that video about the Mars observer loss, about bits of paper, dust, and debris thrown into the thing. How did you know? He was trying to tell me, Gary, this was entirely scripted in 90. That happened in 93. Think about it. I always had strong feelings these Masonic lodges knew something. We're passing on something down through time that we needed to know. Now, are they saying that we need to know, or we need to know meaning no? Like, yes, no. There's ways I'm looking at this now, and it gets spookier, but why teach me? If they're saying no, why teach me to see secret history of NASA? NASA is Hoagland. Oh, my God. Why teach me to see all that crap? Why teach me to see my own past? Why teach me to see my accident? Why teach me to see it in a concept? I'm obviously talking to myself in my mind through the process of this code and how I undertook it to get its info now, which I'm not telling no one about, not now anyway, and what it described to me. And what will happen, I closed the book at some point because I said I'm not a Nostradamus and I'm not going to be a soothsayer. I'm a Christian, and I'm very strongly connected to that saved by the blood thing. I know people have a lot of concepts of what Christianity is, about who God is, about what God is not and whatnot. I don't give a crap. I know because I've experienced him too. And I'm not going to get into that, nor do I have to. I just, hopefully all you do. Because I'm telling you, he's being sent in, I was told. But that's another story for another day. But it connects. Because without me learning how to see what I've seen from UFO Diaries, I wouldn't have come to see that message. I just want to throw that in there for a sideline about him being sent in. But anyway, the concept with this, I have to stay sane because if it is a test, Hoagland once said in code on Nori's show, this is a Kobayashi Maru. You're familiar with Star Trek. Again, you're a big fan. Remember what that was?
Yeah.
The
unsolvable problem.
Yeah, he cheated on Spock's test, eating an apple.
Yep, you've got it right, Gary.
Well, that
so,
if you're talking about the apple,
what apple am I eating? And what is it? What is it? That obviously, look at what you just said. I can't refute the things you were saying about Merlin and all the other stuff that you just told me. But you're saying, you're the one saying, I'm not telling you, correct? But the things I'm saying, in a way you can relate to something to which makes my more experience and what I'm trying to describe here more real.
Gary, that apple also relates to wisdom, and going back to the garden, the serpent, this image of the serpent relating to Lucifer, the bearer of light, relating to the planet Venus, a planetary body that represents the goddess of the female energy. And this is actually really important. I don't know how much about this you know. If you relate that to the symbolism of the Masonic... if you relating it to the Masonic lodges and relating it to ancient mystery schools, and let me just try to lay this out because it's somewhat complex. If you take the idea of Lucifer being a specific entity, Lucifer, the bearer of light, That light, though, in our electromagnetic spectrum as visible light is just a small portion of what exists. In fact, electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005% of what exists in the entire universe, so it's a small fraction. Plus, we have the speed of light, the supposed barrier. It's a small type of prison that we perceive through our senses. That light is essentially seen as a false light, as a deceitful light, which is why Lucifer is seen as a deceiver, as a trickster. It is, and this is actually very strange because, not strange, it's synchronistic. When you were...
Hoagland's the devil.
When you were doing your thing at the beginning of the show, Ira and I talked, and we actually talked about this exact same concept. There's something called...
Really?
Yeah, there's something called the Pythagorean Y, Gary. And the Pythagorean Y is a pathway. To the left of this pathway, it is a lit path. It is a path lit with material items lit with glamour and glitz, physical material reality. It looks like an easy path. It's a physical, easy, tangible path to take.
You know what I call them? I call them golden carrots that think you're a jackass. And that is not a bright path. That's a dark path.
Well, by taking
I know what you're talking about there. You hit it on the head, dude.
Yeah,
There's
and
two paths I'm following. One, I'm at a crossroads. Now I'm following the breadcrumbs, having faith and hope in Hoagland. Believe it or not. Yes, I'm saying it. Can you believe it?
If you take the dark path in that case, Gary, it seems kind of scary. It's that Saturnistic influence that allows the material world to manifest.
Yeah.
And by going through that, you learn.
Notice who wants to forgive me. Hey, Gary, we'll give you your show. Hey, Gary, you could take him to court and then...
Gary, Ira?
I'm still here. I think we lost him.
I think we did too. Well, I'll tell you what. That once again with the Skype here, Ira.
Yep.
Let's
Perfect
see.
time, right?
Yeah. Let me see if we can get him back on. We'll be taking a break here in just a few minutes, and we'll be coming back and see how long he can join us. So now it's telling me that same thing it did before. It can't connect to his line. So this will probably cut you off. Give me 1 second, okay?
No problem.
All right, so let's go ahead and call up Gary again and see if we can get Ira back in here. If you are just joining us, I am Ryan Gable. I've been here with Ira Robinson and Gary Leggiere. Gary, are you on the line with us? Hello? Gary, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. Maybe we're having some Skype difficulties. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take a short break, and we will be back in just a few minutes. The website is www.thesecretteachings.info. That's www.thesecretteachings.info. Stay tuned. We will be right back. The physical world we see with our brains is truly an illusion, an energetic expression of consciousness. We see less than 1% of what exists within white visible light, yet profess to understand the nature of existence. A physical matter made of hollow particles perceived as physical only by our DNA, brain, and five-sense decoding system, decoding a series of biological zeros and ones in the forms of A, C, T, and G. Occultists call this the Grand Illusion, and this is the name of my first book, The Grand Illusion: Slaves to Perception. My name is Ryan Gable, and I'm the author of The Grand Illusion and host of the radio show The Secret Teachings. It is my perspective that we are all slaves to perception, programmed to react rather than to think critically, programmed to consume, to mock those who are different than you, and to outcast others that are different than the acceptable social norms. In the book The Grand Illusion, I have broken down what we call reality into 3 parts. In part 1, I explore the big questions of who we are, where did we come from, and of course religious teachings rooted in astronomy, commonly known as astrotheology. In the second part of The Grand Illusion, I explore the history of central banks and world wars, international networks of child abusers, geoengineering of our environment, secret societies, UFOs, and the paranormal. In the third part of The Grand Illusion, I explore political assassinations, symbols, and sacred geometry, and how, with the evidence I've provided, my belief is that events like 9/11/2001 and the 2012 London Olympics were mass energy rituals. The book is over 700 pages and filled with years of my own research, which I believe is separated from others in this field by the way that I approach such topics, such as UFOs, how some will just simply either believe or automatically disbelieve. choosing a predetermined, pre-conclusive side in that argument, when in fact I believe that the alien myth is some type of cover for something else, and we'd explore that in The Grand Illusion. How secret societies are not a group of men, sometimes women, worshiping the devil, that in fact they are remnants of ancient mystery schools. And of course, my rare coverage of Gaza and the international network of pedophiles. But regardless of your opinions or beliefs, The Grand Illusion has something for everyone, including an entire chapter on health, my own personal experiences and how to eat non-GMO, information on hidden ingredients and deceptive labels from companies, as well as the ingredients and ways to opt out of vaccinations legally. Now, I could tell you that my book, The Grand Illusion, Slaves to Perception, will change the world or help you to survive the end times or get you closer to God, but that's exactly the type of deceptive mentality that I attempt to expose in the book, living without fear and instead being informed. If you would like a copy of The Grand Illusion, Slaves to Perception, you can purchase the copy at thesecretteachings.info. That's thesecretteachings.info. Click on the Shop tab, and you have your choice of softcover or PDF. There is no regulation or editing of what I wrote in this 700-page book, and if you'd like a free sample, you can email me at rdgable@yahoo.com. That's over 700 pages, 3 parts, and 13 chapters. Visit thesecretteachings.info and click on the Shop tab today to order your copy of The Grand Illusion, Slaves to Perception. The book will also be available from Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Don't be afraid, be informed.
How can we so arrogantly believe that we are at the very cutting edge of human and social evolution? How can we truly understand ourselves when we dilute our very nature with distractions that only seem to entertain rather than educate the human brain and mind? If you wish to explore these concepts and much more, you can tune into The Secret Teachings, Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the L&M Radio Network. You can also download and listen to past episodes for free by visiting our website, www.thesecretteachings.info. Remember that the highest wisdom is silent fact, and that wisdom is not bestowed, it is achieved.
You're listening to The Secret Teachings. For more information, you can visit thesecretteachings.info, where you can find a full list of downloadable episodes, top news articles, links to our Facebook page, and ways to catch the show no matter where you're located. For questions, comments, or requests, you can email us at rdgable, that's rdgable@yahoo.com. Stay tuned.
Are you tired of shows about bogus photographs of guinea pigs on Mars or fake photos of Bigfoot in the woods? How about fake paranormal shows that don't actually discuss the paranormal or believe that every object they see in the sky must be extraterrestrial? How about big networks that use alternative news to promote their mainstream agenda, political shows that are one-sided, or shows that claim to know exactly what is happening for ratings, even though an event just broke in the news? Me too. At The Secret Teachings, we are not like any of those other shows. We cover any topic from symbolism to ancient history and from health to the occult, including the paranormal, but we don't just jump on board with every photograph of an orb or sample of Bigfoot hair. We have no political affiliations, no religious backing, and no financial backing. We want proof, and not someone's word. If you want proof, or at least a different perspective from a host that can both accept or deny all points of view and all pieces of evidence, without holding onto a preconditioned belief or looking for evidence to support a prior conclusion, someone who can even admit when they're wrong, then check out The Secret Teachings radio show. Airtimes and free downloads are available by visiting www.thesecretteachings.info. That's thesecretteachings.info. I'm your host, Ryan Gable, and I hope that you will join us. Namaste.
Welcome back to The Secret Teachings. I'm your host, Ryan Gable. Our website, www.thesecretteachings.info. That's www.thesecretteachings.info. Our guest tonight, Gary Leggiere, had a little bit of Skype difficulty in the last segment, but I have Ira running the Skype. Hopefully it's working. So let me go ahead and try to connect to the call with Gary and Ira, and we will get back into the topic of conversation. Gary, Ira, are you there? Hello? Ira Robinson? Gary Leggiere, are you on the line with me?
Hear me?
I can hear you now, yes. So a little bit of Skype difficulty there, but we are back. So, Gary, whatever we were talking about, since we're back from break now, wherever you would like to take us, the floor is basically yours.
Well, are we live?
Not necessarily live on the network, but in terms of recording, we are live, yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so you can edit. All right. Well, yeah, I don't remember where.
Well, we started to get into talking about the new faces.
Yeah, the new face, exactly. Like, for instance, the one I had recently found I call it the star face of Mars, and its surrounding features, because of its surrounding features, I call it Starface City. And this thing, let me give you the location. Because, a lot of the locations of the things I'm finding, I'm not giving out because I'm building up a case. But I think this one's pretty profound enough to wet people's whistles to the implications and need to demand answers about those images seen on UFO diaries, and again, thus demanding Mr. Hoagland for those images and the truth, instead of an avoidance or code speak, or basically ask him to open up his briefcase. But like at Starface City, for instance, 13 degrees 50 north by 48 degrees 59 west. Through Google Earth Mars. So that's where, you people can check it out and see what we're talking about.
Do you have a photograph that I can put up on the website for the listeners?
Yes, I will get that to you and a couple others and links if that's possible. I mean, are we limited to how much we can put up?
No, absolutely not. I can put up as much or as little as you'd like.
Okay, great. And I got another face find that I found years ago, but, of course, waiting, for data for other missions to go over the areas, I was able to accumulate, by that availability. And this other face find, I'm not giving its location yet. Again, I'm building my case, especially for its region. Now, if someone happens to recognize it or could find it, kudos, but it's still, it's my case, you know what I'm saying? So, but this particular one, I want to give you a link for the video too. I call it the most intriguing human-like face found on Mars. What do I mean by human-like? Well, more human-esque. The face of Cydonia, like Rich and Hoagland, hey, a human face. No, it's not a human face. One side, if you split it and mirror it, looks like Cornelius a little bit, or some type of reptile-ish hominid. The other side looks like Leo the lion, as it was. So, again, the feline hominid aspect, which goes to your connection to Earth or who went where, we do see through its art on Earth that representation in Mesoamerica as well as in Egypt via the Sphinx. So we on Earth, or at least in our day and age, we're familiar with the hominid feline aspect. But so this other face, the most human-like face, I say, is looking that way, like a human-esque face, and especially thanks to Mars Express data, which gives us a particular sun angle and from a different date, obviously, or whatever, but it gives us a view to where it looks more human, to where how NASA gives it out to us, it's usually in the consistent same type of daytimes as it was, not very much different to like the drastic changes that were seen by a different sun angle and or orbit position of this planet when it would best be seen under what conditions, because I'm sure that world tilts to it as its winters and summers. So at certain times I theorize, but because of that image, I'm saying if that's smoking gun evidence, that we would see things at particular times that we may not see at other times on Mars that's meant to be seen at whatever time that is, and that's the Llewellyn canals. It's not canals. Those are an art grid design that envelopes the whole planet of the sculpture, and for what is to be seen when and how. The surface has been carved in such a way with such a knowledge and an ability, like a graffiti tattoo artist gone mad on Mars, much more advanced than we're seeing here on Earth, even with sunken cities and the beauty of them and the wonder of them. This is far more advanced of what's on Mars. So in that sense, there could be a connection. The hominid feline aspect, the duality again, the light and the dark part, which is, more to our other discussion that led to that. But through the art itself, we're seeing as humans, and also in geometry. This geometry is what gives it away, and because within this Mars grid, as it was of Llewellyn factor, I call it, those canals, you have a picture within a picture within a picture within a picture. Think of a beautiful spider, intelligent, that can make pictures within its webbing through all the layers that it will lay. It could deliberately make pictures or geometries. I mean, it's incredible. And that's how they scoured the surface. But again, that's the Mars they now know. The Mars we now know is, well, you see signs of it. And they don't anticipate you to really want to spend all your time like I do. Like people used to argue with me, it's a hobby. Bullshit. It's not a hobby. Because a hobby is something, this is my work. Oh, you get paid for it. Yeah, maybe one day, baby. But the truth is what I'm looking for, and I want pay dirt. You know what I'm saying? Am I still on?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Gary.
Oh, okay, because someone's calling me, and it looks like from your number again. That's weird. But anyway, so it's a complex answer. But these faces of Mars, from what I believe, even the ones that stand out, let alone what may or may not be seen on certain times, there's much more is needed to be found. Mars is a big place. Even though it's smaller than our planet, don't let that fool you, has more land masses, or just as much, if not more, than all our continents combined put together. Think about it. A lot that these Martians in code said could be true. That the forces here on Earth that is keeping us from knowing about their presence on and under Mars.
Well, one question I would have, I don't know if you've ever done this or not, but one question that I would have, I guess, relating to a lot of the things that we're seeing as far as the way that the images look that are coming from Mars is getting into maybe what the symbology of these different images mean. So, in other words, you were speaking about the hominid Leonid face. What kind of symbolism can we derive from, historical symbolism relating to a lion image or a hominid image, and on and on and on?
Ira, I want
pyramids and stuff.
If I can inject with Ira's question, I wanted to propose the concept that, for example, the ancient Egyptians, they produced images of their gods and goddesses in half human, half animal form, and this was a representation of the connection between mankind and nature. It was a dualistic concept, once again, like black and white.
Especially when you consider Sitchin.
Yeah.
Which is plausible. Very plausible. We could have created those things. Therefore, your centaurs, your Hercules, and all these other, things that may miss or may not. But you're right, yeah, they named it. But here's the thing. It's far older than what's on Mars and what I'm seeing here on Earth. And the Sphinx of Egypt is a good example to compare to hominid feline, but here's the thing. It wasn't originally a face like that.
Oh.
The Egyptians carved it later of what was already there. Well, who knows what it may have looked like. Whoever sent us this message through this code knows. That I'm sure of.
The interesting thing regarding that, for instance, in particular, is that the ancient Egyptians themselves said that they didn't build anything that was there. They just came in and basically
occupied it.
They came in and occupied it, right? And that it was actually Zep Tepi, the time before time. It was the people that came before them that created it, and they just basically came in and occupied. So I think that's pretty.
With that said, Cairo. However, good point, and the one could rebut. Again, we're looking for evidence. I'm not seeing evidence of any. We have so many things that we can consider But there's only one truth, would you agree? The word Cairo means city of Mars.
There you go.
I mean, look, so, again, we need to really dig under their sands. We need, not just some of them. We need to blow it all away, or move it out, make new islands, and, dig out what's really underneath, even all the old aspects, Bosnia, the pyramids there. Who knows what else is all around there that has been, why is he all covering Leggiere stuff? That would be more of a spectacle to undertake than the creation of the things. Well, not if you consider the floods. Certainly, you could have a lot of crap wash over it. And, it seems that by the plugs in the tunnels of the pyramid, thanks to Dr. Samir Osmanagic, even this year putting out videos, a lot of these tunnels look to be plugged up, which shows me someone was under there, they were preparing for such an onslaught, and they had to plug the holes. My question is where'd they go from one inside, and then how they get out after the fact. There's a lot of things to consider here of our own past histories. We're not getting all the answers. Someone knows a lot more than what they're letting on about our planet, let alone Mars or the moon. We haven't even, on the Mars,
I absolutely agree.
So it's like very hard to just, we know what's being pushed on, media. They want us to believe ancient aliens, this and that, and that would be a great cover too for someone to distract us away from what they really know.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Maybe that, so again, it's two-sided, and you got to stay sane in this. No matter what, no matter if you want to believe in it or not, you got to consider it if you want to be a serious researcher to get down to the truth of the unknown, especially dealing with the Twilight Zone crap up there, let alone on what I'm dealing with in my reality and as my reality and having faith in, and listen to it, no less, listening to the intelligence. I moved. I acted. Granted, it took me a while to get motivated to get it really into my head. I had to go, but to listen and obey it, even though I didn't know who it is, and I still really don't. But I'm having faith, and I got to have faith. If it's otherworldly, my faith in an otherworldly source, King Holy be Jesus, he sees this, and he will help me through it. Like Salye said, if it's a Trojan horse, that brings satanic things. What side of the force gave this to us? In this code, I also seen two sides. Isn't it funny? Hoagland describes two sides, two NASAs. Hoagland's at war with himself. He needs Xanax. He needs something because he's a split personality. He needs help. He needs our help to help him kick his own ass. And it's funny. In that sense, it helps us stay sane because whoever designed all this has a sense of humor. But, how far does it go? Because, again, this code described me being thrown in a pit, one dog's walking out, and the fact that I was not asked my permission. It wanted me to know this dog was not asked his permission. So what implications does that tell you? How is the Bible written? How, in my belief, and I don't, I see code in the Bible even more now. It's Jesus himself talking in the Old Testament. And years ago, I didn't see that. But now, and like how my brain has been shifted or trained in this invisible college, as it was called as code, or you said yourself, secret teachings, as it was. That's pun intended, huh? Nothing's coincidence. But it's a reality, and it's one whether I like it or not, whether people like it or not. Why me? I can't dwell on that. It doesn't matter. It is me, and maybe I am the right guy. I don't know. I don't think I am. I'm not that smart. I'm not, someone of authority, that you would expect this type of crap to be coming from. You expect the man who was in the video, right? The one who's at the conferences or what? The one who is always on Coast or even on Facebook. Notice he's never on his Facebook no more. Why? Ever since Mad Martian came around. Is that a coincidence? And all the people there, the screen grabs I made of the majority that I got to see before I got banned from those pages, of course, of them wanting to know answers and them getting banned. Why? Because people want to know, but yet he says on radio shows, I have over 50,000 likes, followers, blah, blah. We engage in interesting conversation until you talk about the faces of Mars. Well, UFO diaries are definitely about Mad Martian. Text me. Think I'm lying? Try it for yourself. Good luck. Good luck trying to get an answer. But I need 2% of you to have the balls to do it because we'll win. Now, I just need you to believe me there because I need your help. I need allies. And that's the only way, because I can't do it alone. And he says that outright, even though he's speaking in code these days. I have to help him. I need your help to help me, to help him kick his own ass, because the guy on the surface in control of him is dark. He's Count Dooku. His name is Dick Hoagland. So I'm at war with, and there's a lot of comedy, there's profanity, but it's all, you go back to symbology. You mentioned it, symbology. It's in symbolic form, to at least how I was led, that my brainwave pattern, and this is the best way I'm trying to explain it, on how I even, because remember, I'm a principal investigator, any effect on me, I also have to note. Would that make sense? Especially when no one else is looking into this, and who would believe me? And but I got a case. My enemy's running. I got testimony. My enemy's running. I got his own words, and he's running. And but yet in code, he's really saying, "Help me! I want this out. Help me kick my ass because I signed documents. I'm not this person. I'm not this evil person. I want the truth out, but I can't talk about it." So Gary, I'll screw your life because that's my job on the surface to do. But I know that you have the balls to see through it, and you know me well enough. And I have faith in you well enough that you'll see through the bullshit soon enough to help me kick my ass and make it safe to be seen and have my legacy. And guess what? We have our heritage of the Martians.
Gary, we've got
What is this next book?
We've got about 40 minutes left, so just so you have an idea of what the time limit is in terms of where you want to take the conversation for tonight. I wanted to ask you, though,
Okay, well...
In working with Richard, how did Richard get into this in terms of how did he become this guy who became the poster child for this research in terms of what's presented in the alternative reality, in the alternative media?
Yes, that is the heart of the issue, and what I've been learning in code that told me about him, that he was a John Doe, how this code, by his breadcrumbs, based on how I think, it had to lead me to teach me, knowing that I would follow it, knowing that I would conceive and follow it and learn to see, so I would want to keep looking into it, and more information be given that he was a John Doe, who was working, who was an operative, was an entity unto himself. He was a government entity of himself. Get this, a buttress. That's what I called him. Automatically I started laughing. They called him an ass. That's the humor side, because there's a lot of spooky crap in this, and it seemed to know that I, myself, personally, needed that. You know what I mean? Because it helped me along, because I was scared crap eventually. First, I was just entertained, but you know what? I was Atreyu in a never-ending story, and I was and I couldn't let that influence me, especially after what Mr. Selye said, and I went back and I started figuring things out. Look. The thing is, he goes back a long way, doesn't he? He's always Johnny on the spot with everything, isn't he? He has been such an incredible damn life. This guy, even being behind this code, whether he is the help designer of it or he's a participant working to help do it because that's his job as the government entity unto himself he was to perform, that he not once wished to be photographed in. But this is a rehearing now in the future of the court of public opinion for you all to decide. Get it? There was why a rehearing? Because there was once a hearing. And this John Doe, who came out to be named Rich, which I was told was not a good answer, turned out to be, Mr. Hoagland, because it described to me that, his undercover job was, at the space mission who was a press person. Isn't that coincidental? He is known for being a press person. And so I was like, no way. And now, mind you, when I was going through all this, and I'm leaving a lot out, I was reporting to him. Every 2 days, I was reporting to him under his behest, thinking, though, that he was really steering me wrong because he was wanting to avoid getting on the air with Mr. Selye and Mr. Shackelford for the dates and times I had set up with them to be on my show, The Martian Revelation, which will come again. It's upon us. People like it or not. It's back, and it'll be under my control this time. But anyway, of what that entails and what that was entailing to what he was describing and saying that basically he knew I was going to find. He was going to set me up. It wasn't time yet. And you've heard him even on the surface in shows. It's not time yet for disclosures. But now it is.
It's time for wine. No wine before no wine before it's time. The Jesus table at the slander answer to Sleeping on a Clue a year or two ago about me and about about Cydonia, images of Cydonia that I may have suppressed that are worth a fortune if I should come out and release. Notice he said images of Cydonia. Anthony Sanchez said a show called UFO Diaries. He said some gentleman. He said some images. Anthony did not say Faces of Mars, but Richard Hoagland, in a way, gave an answer without giving it. He said some images of Cydonia that I've been suppressing. People would think it's Cydonia, on the surface. They don't know. They don't see his code. I've seen it because the Cydonia he's really referencing of the images that he's withholding is from UFO Diaries called Cydonia. Now get this. Then he goes, what possible logical reason would I have to suppress that smoking gun evidence? And everyone was quiet. But yeah, I would have been like Arnold Horseshack. When I seen that video, I was like, oh, But yet I can't be heard. But yet my force, my presence was there, forcing Anthony Sanchez that my presence was dominant there. And the most dominant aspect of that whole panel night and that panel answer, where he came to the Jesus table late, where we're sitting around the false apostles there. That table, again, symbology. Why all this symbology? Why the slandering of me at that, and then saying, but the good news is by Gary doing what he's doing, he's forcing, he uses that word again, he's forcing more people to ask deeper and better questions. Allowing him to set the record straight? How? How is that setting the record straight? People are confused, and he said it. Look at why people are looking around saying, what the hell is he doing? That don't make sense. Why is he doing that? And Hoagland then says, we need to change that. For what? So it makes sense, right? I see it. So instead of taking the golden carrot, taking on a jackass road, the dark side, which might look like light, like you brought up Ira earlier in the court, to get what? To get the worldly goods and possessions of someone else? To take them from him because of what he did to me? It's obvious what he did to me online and what he did to me openly on the air to millions of people on Coast, and elsewhere, avoiding this subject on the surface while yet speaking in code, allowing me to look closely, knowing I'm at a level enough now to piece it together. I'm not only showing his secret past, I'm showing what he's still doing. And he's at war with himself. Hoagland always said there's a war on the inside. It's almost like there are two NASAs. There's a war on the inside. One wants the truth out, one doesn't. One's the roosters, the insiders, the ones that want to crow out, Basically, they want to talk it out, but they're being kept in check. Why? Because of the owls. Hoo, says the owl on the surface, doesn't he? So, more symbology. Again, I'm not a Mason. I'm am I being put to a Masonic test? I'm starting to wonder, and people have said that to me too, by some of the things I'm describing, and you yourself, you're saying, I'm connecting the things that you have heard, but yet I don't know what the hell I'm dealing with. I'm believing I'm in contact with actual Martians down through time to a twilight zone, because that's how worlds communicate, which logically long ago I came to realize it must be true, because how would worlds communicate? You must cross time as well as space. So somehow I thought that was logical. No. So we're on a path of a Twilight Zone thing that's hard to see, but yet it's in front of everyone's faces. If they not see it, like Hoagland says, it's total plausible deniability. It's been out there. If no one sees it, it's not our fault. You guys are that stupid. And that was his exact words, and I got him saying it. And the painting will be painted to show it. Okay, that's how this process is. That's what I'm supposed to do, and he's explaining and what I'm doing, and everything that's, even while I take my little pokes and jabs, when I am going soft on him, I'm following the data, or I'm following him, and I'm letting him and these paintings lead the way of where he really wants to lead us to see, hey, Gary's onto this. Gary found this, and it's pretty funny. My name keeps coming up. And I'm not painting myself in there. It's like he's propping me up at the same time. So I'm at the realization, does this guy really want me destroyed? Or I'm doing, look, when we had how I made homeless, he promised me I'd be working for him. I had a job for him. I had the job for him, for Enterprise. And me and my family wouldn't be thrown on the street and all this. I mean, there's a lot of history here I'm not going into because I don't want to relive and open those wounds, but they're there. And that's what keeps me on my pursuit to use to a fight. Granted, though, don't take my softness as weakness, because I could easily turn this around and destroy him. Have him destroy himself, be the laughing stock, because I'll make you guys laugh. You think you guys laugh at my paintings? I'm going soft. I'm going real soft. You ain't seen nothing of how I can really paint this to destroy him. But notice that possible road. You brought up that light and dark thing. Is that also a golden carrot? Am I worthy to find the truth? Are we worthy to get these answers? You see, it's not just a Kobayashi Maru. Hoagland once said to me on my show, and believe it or not, it's when he told me my voice was going to be important the same night. I told you that earlier, right? He goes, you know, Gary, you have to be true to yourself. Who was it, Shakespeare, that said it many years ago? How can one be true to themselves, to others, if one cannot be true to thyself? And the way that he said that, only in time did I go back and listen to our old technology, our old shows. Did I notice that he was planting seeds of code in there that he somehow knew that I would come back and see and utilize in time to paint the big. Isn't it funny? He always says, even in recent years, the big picture conversation. He's alluding to the code that I found. Through all the truth layers, through all the lies of the layers to get to the truth. What does that mean? People have so many misconceptions of it, it's unbelievable. Here's what it means. Everything he's done, every show he's been on, every show that he's talked on, it's all scripted. It's all coded. Therefore, if you were to, make records out of them, don't it not make layers? It makes layers. Therefore, you have to go through the layers, go through those timelines, the audio tracks, okay, and pull out the information. If you have certain code keys, which are his exact words, not mine, but he's right on, because that's what I did, to spell out the big picture. Then when you see this, then you really cannot sit there and listen to me and believe me. In fact, you should not, he says. No kidding. Only if you see what I see. Now I have to help you see it. And then you'll see what he's doing. Because he goes, because when you see this, then you'll see who we really are. We'll see what we're really doing and what is about to change the consciousness and shift the future of all mankind to a positive direction that will save civilization. That's his exact words. Please, somebody call in and refute. Especially you, Mr. Hoagland. Or should I say Mr. Dick Hoagland? The NASA.
Gary,
the
let me
NASA,
interject something. Let me interject something here, because I want people to be aware of this, and I wish that it would happen, but I don't ever foresee it. I'm sure that I'll get an email or two, whether it's from some troll or just because somebody's curious, asking me, why would you let Gary on the show to just sit there and reel on Hoagland? And my response to that is, if Hoagland wants to come on the show, Hoagland can come on the show. If he wants to defend himself, I'm right here. Gary's right here.
Please,
I know Michael's right here. Come on the show, Richard.
Yes, thank you. Please invite him, and don't only do so now. Put out a public thing that it makes sure it gets on his walls. That a public outcry. Do it, please. That'll show you have balls and you're part of the 2% that he says I need to win this fight. And he describes this with a metaphor with Mr. Wells. Coming to America. Europeans did not want to come. The majority did not want to come. But look how many came. Only 2% of them was needed to have their voices heard to make it happen. That's how he says he was giving me an idea and telling me what needs to be done, because I cannot do it by myself. It was not designed to do it by myself. It was designed that I would receive it, pass this test, help you people to change your consciousness to the reality that this code is representing, that I already did the serious legwork on, so you people don't have to go through the hell I did. You don't have to suffer what I did or what I went through, but all you have to do is try to follow along to get the gist. And once you see the gist, that's when you will have the ultimate decision. It's Twilight Zone-y and impossible, and it should be. You will say, hey, there's evidence here. There's things you can make your own notes. I advise take notes. Well, look at this. Gary does present testimony. Look at this. Gary does present Hoagland's own words. Look at this. Gary does present images. Gary presents. Gary presents. Gary presents. What the hell is he? On the surface. Huh? Think about it.
Well, one thing I
So
would like to...
I'm being used as part of an acclimation program to what he really is wanting to happen. So, yes, that's why Ira, or was that Ryan, I'm sorry, whoever asked that question, about calling him out on the air, please, I'm asking you, will you do it? Make sure that his walls will get it, that he will see it, that you guys want him on to talk about UFO diaries. Never mind my crazy story. Am I crazy? Well, let's talk about UFO diaries. Let's hear him say the faces of Mars. Let's even hear him say UFO diaries. I'd be happy with that. I mean, I've only waited how many years to hear it? Now check this out. So if he does that, I'll have everything you need. I'll have the testimony you guys could play by the producer's words. Never mind my words. Think about a court. Remember, this is a rehearing, a court of public opinion, and those who have stepped up already to speak in defense of him has been noted down through time by the designers down through time of who speaks forth. And what happens to false witnesses in a court case? What's the potential damage of false testifying in a case? Defending someone who doesn't come to defend himself, who's the only one that needs to come and defend himself. What happens to those people? You'll be impeached, you fools. And that's the reality of it. I'm giving my testimony now, even on the air, because down through time, every record that I lay becomes a layer as well. You get it? The show you and I are doing now, like the show I did with Mike the other night, that's a layer. The previous shows is a layer. Well, we're changing the layers. Why? Because we're going through the layers that was once laid, and we're going through, digging through them, getting to the truth, which will change the future if we're able to make it. Therefore, I have to make it for you to make it. Because it seems to me I'm the guy on the envelope that it was addressed to. You see? It wasn't just addressed to the earth. It was addressed to me. I had to see it and realize it's a message that I have to deliver to the earth. You get it? That's how worlds communicate. I'm supposed to understand. In a way, I have come to understand that, but it's still so outlandish. But is it? Is it really? I'm only a real scientist and theorist or someone you would expect to be thinking of dealing with these things would maybe know this. But look, I was there connecting the crap that I knew nothing about. And you know what I'm saying? It only makes me feel there's more here than meets the eye, pun intended. And I'm on the right track, and this is a test. I got to stay true to myself. I got to, Selye said to me, Gary, mind you, faith really matters. Faith really matters. You got to believe. You got to believe.
Well, Gary,
why were the hairs on my neck going up?
Gary, let me throw in here as well a couple of things. The fact is that Hoagland, I mean, you can definitely say that Hoagland is among the elite players. And the elite
he would have to be, again, Johnny on the spot.
Yeah.
Moon landing. I mean, the Walter Cronkite, Hayden Planable. He's a smart guy. Yeah. I mean, and I was really honored. I mean, unbelievable. Gary, on your bitch fan, really? You know, what about the job? Hey, you know what? Maybe what I'm doing is the job.
Well, that's kind of my point that I was going to get to. The elite players.
What does that make me go, bro?
The elite players, they tend to think more generationally than what we in the general masses do. We in the general masses, we only think maybe a month, a week, or whatever ahead of time. The power players, they always play the game of generations. So they think, what can we do to change the next generation? Or what can we do to influence things right now to influence a generation or two generations from now? So what they'll do is
I'm following. That's the Brookings, too. That goes to that Brookings situation I was talking about. But go ahead, you're right on.
Right.
Thank you.
They will lay out these different trails so that people will follow the breadcrumbs to lead them into this new foundation of different things that they want to have happen. When you're
but most people won't.
Right.
They don't have nuts.
Right, exactly. When you're talking about the 2% thing as well, sociologically, experiments and
that's how many people have nuts.
Right.
That's pretty bad if they know that. we're done if they're an enemy.
Sociologically and psychologically, what has been found is that any time that social change or changes within government or whatever the case may be have occurred, it is because 2% of the population have stood up and fought against whatever was in place at that moment. And that's all that it takes is just 2%.
So you're confirming it. You're confirming it.
Exactly what you're talking about. 2% of the population is needed for any social change that is being looked to be made changed.
Thus, with that said, to you, my friends, no offense, don't take this wrong. You know where I'm coming from. You have the balls to put out that public campaign this week.
Oh, I absolutely do.
Oh, hey, it doesn't hurt to ask. You're doing your jobs. You really want this guy on.
Well, I've contacted Richard in the past, and Richard's never got back to me about coming on the show. And I know Michael had him on the show, but when Michael confronted him about UFO
you gotta
Diaries,
keep making the demand.
That was it.
You have to make the demands, Brian. He says that now in code. That's why I'm telling you. What I was telling you is more the reason. What I'm coming to look. I'm having to come to trust him now. Believe it or not, after everything he did to me. I'm seeing him explain the things done to me, and he is giving reasons in this code, I do admit, but I'm not seeing recompense. I want recompense. My family deserves recompense, do they not? He's going to come out looking golden at the end of this, I promise you. He's going to be redeemed for all those people that say he's a hoaxer, he's this or that. When he comes out looking to how I think where this is going, he's going to come out looking good, but here's the thing. I want recompense. I don't want the shit end of the stick still. Okay? That's my point. I don't want to assert what's his. I don't want to hurt him. I never wanted him dead. So we know on the surface he's lying. I was always concerned what this code had for him. Not whitewash the lies of Stalin, Mr. Hoagland. Why those words? Have you been to Moscow, Mr. Hoagland? Not whitewash the lies of Stalin. Come clean. Failure to appear will cause a warrant of arrest to be issued. The type of warrant, the arrest that would be issued was described. The type of where his chest is cracked open. Hundreds shall appear at his funeral. Tell me that any threat that I could even make, even if I wanted to, can outdo that. That's scary stuff, isn't it? And I was crying for him because look, the dude meant a lot to me. All right, I mean, I couldn't believe who I was, and everyone, Gary, why are you so close to him? And I knew a lot of them were jealous. Gary, you, and I was like, yeah, what do you say? You try to punk me because I got long hair and the way I talk, but yet look what I'm finding, look what I'm proclaiming, and what I find, debunk them. I mean, to me, it wasn't because I was some retarded mascot they all felt sorry for and brought me there, or gave me a name or position, or to make an impact with my show and my vision, what I see for space and what I would do if I was in control. But besides that, that was my own little way. Like you doing your show, you're out to change the world to make a difference, right? Well, that was mine. But look, it failed. Why? Not on my own hand. I had that right to fail on my own hand. I had that right to succeed at my own hand at the show. But here's what's funny. When it comes in time, you learn that those footsteps you thought were your own and your own creation must not have been after all. That you thought that it was yours, that your idea, that your steps, but it was really seen beforehand or even known. And then letting you know through the Twilight Zone code from who knows where, hell, maybe one side would say, or the other, the Martians. I mean, they gave good reasons why to stay sane of why this is how worlds communicate. Who the hell am I to disagree? You know what I'm saying? But I am appreciative of the fact that at least an attempt was made at communication. That says a lot. And that says a lot about who I am and what I'm about. And people can think whatever because there's a reality. And there's a reality there that I see, and it's going to be used to my advantage to help those, who not want this out, to not keep those secrets anymore. Therefore, I become a threat to those. Okay? Therefore, if what I'm doing, if I succeed, so there's two sides in this code as well. They don't like each other, it seems. Why this black and white checkerboard type game? What is it? Is it a game? I also feel like it might be a game. And someone's laughing at me. And yet someone's hoping for me. I can feel it, bro. I can't explain it. The eye is on me. It's been on me. It don't matter what I do. If I gave up, it doesn't matter. My footsteps are my own. You see what I'm saying? That's why Bible-type technology. And I want to know the technology, never mind the faces. So I want the answers to what started the investigation, but isn't that then what I'm describing, even implications of hints of what I'm saying? So much more needs to be looked into of what this really is, how it came to be, what the actual technology is that's allowing this to happen, and why is it reminiscent, I tried to bring up earlier about the scriptures, what led me on the tirade about being a Christian, is that I'm seeing the same identity in those scriptures throughout hundreds of years of people being written, being what men would write and compelling what they have experienced or what they are been led by his spirit or whatever, a voice, even an angel. You know, who the hell am I, again, to say otherwise? But I am seeing the same identity as if it was the day before. That intelligence. If you people read the word, any of you, maybe you guys could feel what I'm saying, whether you believe it or not. But you definitely learn to see something there if you read and you're consistent. It's incredible. And I don't know why I'm more in tune. Maybe that's maybe more so now by what I have. Would this make sense, Ryan? Ira? Like, I'm more in tune now to where I was then, because and it's told me, it's been teaching me. But for what? Therefore, Gary, think about it. Why fear? Do you fear us still? Why would we be teaching you? Why, if we were out to destroy you, we squish you. I mean, look at the messages we're trying to. We're not telling you so that you would fear. Because if you were our enemy, we wouldn't. Why would we teach you? Why? You know, I'm thinking. Oh, I keep thinking about the thing I'm looking at down in this pit between me and this older dog, who obviously knows what it is and is worried about if I see it or not, or lunge after it. You see what I'm saying? It can make one mad. Mad Martian. Hoagland said, and unfortunately, that's his name. You know, that's what he calls himself, and unfortunately, that's somewhat accurate. That's implications there of code. And I know this code's also alluded to me that we're not going on tonight. But I'm telling you people, I'm Gary Leggiere. I know where I was born. I was born and raised in Copiague, Long Island, New York. Okay, I grew up there. I grew up on the mean streets there. All right, yeah, I never finished high school there. Why? Because I learned from the streets, man. All right, so yeah, you know, you want to know who I am before you judge me in this. All right, I don't have nothing. I don't have nothing to lose, no faces to save, except for those ones on that video, because they're the ones screaming at us to help them. Why? Because they want to be known.
Gary, let me go ahead and put on the brakes because we're coming up on the last couple of minutes here on the show, and I want to read you a quotation. I want to let Ira ask his final question, and then I will give you the floor for the final couple of minutes. So let me go ahead and start with this.
All right, I'm sorry. I was just trying to follow on with some flow, you know.
No.
Fill up time and space.
I understand. I understand.
You'll edit out what you need to.
Shows go way too fast. I go over on my show almost every week. Ira knows that. Let me read you this, though. I thought you'd appreciate it. It comes from the book Morals and Dogma, written by Albert Pike, who was the head of the southern jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite of Masonry here in the United States. He's actually part of the same lodge that Bill Clinton was a part of. And he says in Morals and Dogma...
And that's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait. Sorry, I want you to finish that. Now, go back to that Bill Clinton. He was a member of what?
The same Masonic lodge in Arkansas that Bill Clinton was a member.
Guess what? Remember what I talked about? This is what we are doing now. This is part of the rehearing. You remember that?
Yes.
Why? Because I said, why rehearing? Because there was once a past hearing. Well, funny you brought that up, and now you just confirmed some added info for me of why this is real. All the more that he connected to it, Hoagland, I mean. But he said, it's lying. Go figure. Made it more real for me to investigate, would it not? But look, he goes, guess who the secret judge was? It was described to me, and it led me to realize who it was because of what I have already experienced, and you know, I was a witness to see in my own lifetime. The secret judge of this old hearing, where Hoagland was once, They had to deal with doing deals with the Soviets now, mind you, but I won't get into that. He knows what I'm talking about. I've talked about it with Mr. Pritchett, and there's a report out there. Go look it up. Check it out. We'll talk about it sometime then. But I'll say this. This secret judge was described as me as this. Okay? Now think about this. A secret hearing in a secret room. If Hoagland, and obviously the accuser, would have to be in the room, correct? And the secret judge. The secret judge was deemed as follows. He was a governor at that time who was a candidate to be president. He had another signature attributed for me to figure out who that was. New energy bill. Boy, he had some new energy when I fucking found out who that was, right? Think about it. New energy bill, Monica. You got it, new energy. No, but Bill Clinton, when he became president, he did sign a lot of new energy bills, did he not? Now, how would this code be spot on describing it? I'm like, well, and at the same time, it gives his name. New energy bill. You know, it was a governor at that time. When this hearing took place, he was a governor at that time who was a candidate at that time to be president. He was the secret judge. The accuser in this code describes Hoagland and the secret judge being in bed together, that they did not like the outcome of the hearing. What do I mean by that? It was described to me by this intelligence who's doing the talking in code. He came to be known as his profound respect, Charles. Isn't that funny? I started thinking of Charles Selye. Isn't it interesting? Oh, my day starts at 3:30 in the morning. Isn't it interesting? New energy bill, a candidate to be president who was a governor at that time is the secret judge. Notice his profound respect, Charles said this, because that him and Bill Clinton were in bed together upon knowledge of the outcome of that hearing. How? He describes it as thus. Before the hearing, I had looked ahead to see the outcome. Think about it. I looked ahead in time to see the outcome. I was not happy or satisfied with the results. It was because of nepotism. Do a search on nepotism. If you people don't know what it is, you'll see the picture of him, New Energy Bill, and Mr. Hoagland. And yet, that's why Mr. Clinton went soft on Hoagland. That was seen in the outcomes of the papers that Hoagland signed for his Declaration of Innocence. He had getting a slap on the hand for, and one of the papers he had to sign, he had to play his part in someone's video. And it was supposed to support data, images, which he was supposed to be filmed in connection with those images, but someone not once was to be photographed. We went over that earlier. Now things are starting to come connecting, huh? A little bit, Spooky? Now get this. They also want us to know that president's White House, now that they were looking in time, that president's White House at that time, which asked me, was Bill Clinton's governor's house white? That they wanted them to know that the wife had the whole house bugged. They wanted to give us intelligence, therefore, Mr. Hoagland, no, once I revealed this, Mr. Hoagland, they got you bugged for that previous hearing. And here's the thing. How about the time aspect? How would he know the outcome? He said he looked ahead in time to see the outcome. So by the time Hoagland signed his name in the papers, his punishment was already fitted in that Hoagland had to sign off of, because he had precognitive knowledge of what the outcome would be. And here's how it was ruled and why. Hoagland kept smiling over at the accuser, smiling, mocking, not smiling like, how you doing? Smiling like, look what's going on, I'm innocent. I had to do what I had to do because of my job. The money I need is because of the money of my job. You know, so the punishment went soft because of nepotism. Again, do a search, and you might see why this is important. And therefore, his profound respect, Charles wanted us to know, think of it as if needing to take out an unruly child to be spanked. That's Hoagland. And they wanted us to know that for his antics there, that he's being spanked now. That this rehearing, again, who's in the right, who's in the wrong? Which is true, which is not? Mr. Hoagland, you attributed to it. You said it was lying. You said you never made it there, which means you attributed to that it was a real court hearing. New Energy Bill was supposed to be the judge, but you decided to go to a protest instead. Read the definition of the protest. and the nouns and the verbs and everything else, you'll get a bigger picture of the scene that unfolded of what he did. I was like, okay. After I dropped my coat, it was a beer, but I dropped my coat, and literally on the floor, and I said, hey, then why didn't you go then, there, Mr. Hoagland? I decided to go to protest instead. So, and me and Dick Morris were on our way. Isn't it funny? Dick Morris is the guy that helped get Clinton elected. How are all these names coming together? How are all these connections to Bill Clinton? How are all these connections to this code that should not be, it should be impossible? And I said, Hoagland, you're just jerking my chain. You're making me waste my time instead of pursuing and getting these guys on the horn with you because you don't want to answer about those faces. No, you're telling me this. In fact, when I'm finding this ballot, you're having me for weeks on end, report to you what I'm seeing. Now I'm seeing you. You're a NASA spy. You're a spy. You got images out to the scientists and to use as a cover, and not because you're a good guy, but to cover your ass because you did a deal with probes in the Soviet Union.
Gary,
we're just the picture getting clearer on who Mr. Hoagland may or may not be now.
We're just about out of
more ways than one.
Just about out of time for tonight, Gary. So we will bring you back as soon as we possibly can. I wanted to still read this quote to you because I thought that this was appropriate because you mentioned that maybe you were...
Oh, yes, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
Believe me, I do too if you listen to the show.
But I want to hear that before we close, if you can.
Yeah. The quotation comes from Morals and Dogma, which comes from Albert Pike's book, And Albert Pike was the Grand Commander of the American Lodge of Freemasonry, the Grand Master of the Scottish Rite Lodge in Arkansas, where Bill Clinton would later become a member. And they were actually connected to the Knights of the Golden Circle, which is a symbol of the sun, and their symbol was the Maltese cross. They later changed the name to the Ku Klux Klan, or the Ku Klux Klan. Comes from a Greek word, means kuklos or kliklos, the circle, the Knights of the Golden Circle. That's where the Ku Klux Klan, the white robes, the red cross, the Knights Templar, the symbols, because they were duelists with the Cistercians. So let me go ahead and...
What the hell am I involved in? What the hell am I involved in?
Let me go ahead and read this. The quotation from his book says this: part of the symbols, in terms of masonry, are displayed there to the initiate, but he is intentionally misled by false interpretations. It is not intended that he shall understand them, but it is intended that he shall imagine he understands them. So in the final, 5 minutes we have, you want to comment on that, give out your website, and then go ahead and wrap up. We've got just about 5 minutes.
That would make sense. But here's the factor. There's two sides to this group. That much I learned. There's two sides to them. One side wants the truth out. Hoagland's right. And not only that, one of them's going to say, yeah, those are ours. We got them from Hoagland. We got them from NASA. One of him's going to say, yeah, those are ours. Why? Hoagland's a Mason too. You get it? You see the connections. I mean, please refute any of this, Mr. Hoagland. You're the only one who can. But in code, you're confirming it. And therefore, if what you're saying is true, it wouldn't make sense. But then, remember, people, if it's a test, people are seeing the majority only that one. Why? I'm seeing the other side. That has indeed, not only, look, I thought about that. Of course, misleading me, especially if it's from the devil. Of course, I'm not stupid. But I have to weigh the evidence. But here's the thing, bro. Progress has happened. Connections have been made. Therefore, truth is told. Truth has been told about me, about my own past in this code, my accident, what happened, the missing time even, and I don't want to believe it, and I ain't getting into it. But I'm telling you, something strange is about this, and it's real, and it's true. But Mr. Hoagland attributed to that end of it where he said, where I'm glad you brought that up, is, it's lying. They're lying. So enjoy your new friends. What friends? I'm reading them. This is nuts. Am I? Is it? How would he connect to it? If it's lying, maybe it was. How do I know? All I know is what was done to me. Therefore, what happens to a person who, in court, before we hang up, and they don't show to testify, but the witnesses do. They give their testimony. Who does the jurors or the court usually go side with? The guy who don't show up? Or the guys who testified? Especially like Jesus himself spoke. Where there are two or more witnesses who come together righteously, which means in truth, was in the eyes of God, he would know. And
that would make the case compelling to bring charges against someone, would it not? The same thing here in modern-day court. You have more than one witness, and they're telling the same story, your ass is grass. Sorry, pun intended. You know what I mean? But that's the reality of it. So think of it like that. But yes, what you say is I've thought of that, but you know what? Truth does not come from deception. It doesn't. Truth does not come from the liar of that light, that false light, that Lucifer, that Satan, that him and his, we have to relearn this, relearn that. Why? Because you got thrown out of where you were. And you take us with you. And it ain't going to happen with me, and not if I succeed with this. And that represents the side that wants this out and that does not want this out. Again, someone's hoping and both sides are hoping that what they're hoping for with me in this. One side wants me to succeed, one side wants me to fail. And therefore, whichever will prevail is the side that's going to win. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me. What about you, Ira? What do you think?
It does to me as well, and it really goes into the duality that we exist in right now. That we.
I don't want to be a Mason to find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not knocking on their door where this was filmed. That's a spooky-looking place.
I'll tell you what, Gary. First of all, give me the website just so that we can give it out there to the listeners.
I used to have a very thorough website, but now I have www.thefacesofmars.com. That's www.thefacesofmars.com. And on there, you'll see a few things. You'll see also a couple past archives, one of them called Pick Up the Bones from a Martian Revelation, a few months before I brought this to Hoagland's attention. And in that show, he was hinting and alluding and saying the things I talked to him about of what he said to me about my voice, how it's going to be used, blah, blah, blah. I'm at the head of this wave of this new reportage, and this is incredible. He was predicting as if he knew it. But the only way that I could see it was to go back to my old technology sometime later, in some cases years later, to go back to our old technology, remember our stuff, and listen to it and pick out, because of my progress of being taught in this code, I was able to see it. That should be impossible. But yet, look where we're at now. I'm painting pictures. Richard Hoagland playing in his coded junkyard, NASA's coded junkyard, pun intended. He wants us to see it. He wants you to see it. I'm changing your consciousness if you trust yourself to bear through it, because to hear it and watch it and to figure the gist is like trying to read a ransom letter built with newspaper clippings words, because no one wants you to notice their writing. It's like that in sound and video and audio. But if you could get over that and just follow the data, you tell me who's leading who here and what then you as the 2%ers should do.
Well, Gary, thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you guys for having me on. And the Martian Revelation will be upon us, and I hope to be a guest again sometime. And I hope I didn't upset you guys too much. And have a great night.
Absolutely. Can you actually stay with us for one moment off air?
Yes.
All right. Gary Leggiere, our guest tonight, his information is linked up on the website, www.
The Mad Martian.
Yes, Gary Leggiere, a.k.a. The Mad Martian, linked up at thesecretteachings.info under the guest tab. All of our past episodes for The Secret Teachings, including this episode after it airs, will be available on the website to download and or stream for free. I'm Ryan Gable for Ira Robinson here on LNM with Gary Leggiere tonight as our guest. We will talk to you next week. Don't forget to connect the dots between seemingly unconnected people, places, and events in the world that seems so inextricably complex will actually begin to make sense. Until next week, I am Ryan Gable. This is The Secret Teachings and our website, thesecretteachings.info. Hang on, guys. You won't be able to hear the music, but we'll talk to you in just a second. Give me just a moment. Until next week, Auf Wiedersehen and Namaste.